15-year-old Stephanie Schumann and her mother, 42-year-old phone operator Deborah Drake, are suing Stephanie's father, 43-year-old auto parts dealer Eric Schumann.
You're her mother?
Yes.
Your parents are divorced?
Yes.
And you had been living with your father for about 4 or 5 years?
Yes, about 4 or 5 years.
There was some sort of an altercation at work.
Yes.
Place where your father had worked for a couple of years and he had gotten you a job there. And then after the altercation at work, you moved out.
Yes.
And claimed that after you moved out, your father either destroyed or kept some of your property. You weren't there during the course of the altercation or anything else. So why don't you have a seat for a moment?
Thank you.
When did you start to work with your father?
We started doing inventory services a few years back when I was in 8th grade, and we've been doing them off and on for the weekends just so I can make some money for myself.
All right, now when did this incident happen?
January 28th.
What happened?
We were working up in Long Beach, and we were working in a very enclosed area, and it tends to get very noisy when you're doing inventories.
What is it, doing inventories? Explain that to me.
It's where you go to a dealership, and you sit and you count parts.
Car parts?
Yes.
Okay.
And it got kind of noisy, and I had to ask him several times to repeat some part numbers, and he started getting very frustrated with me, and that morning I was not in the best mood to be dealing with this, so I started getting frustrated back. It led to some words passing between us, and then he told me, just go. I don't want you working with me no more. This is getting very annoying. Why don't you go take a walk? And I told him, look, I just want to continue working. I don't want to have a big deal with this. I don't want to have an argument. Please, let's just keep working. He told me, no, go take a walk. So I didn't want any trouble, so I just went and took a walk for about 30 minutes. And when I felt that I had cooled off enough and he had cooled off enough, we could handle working together, I went back into the dealership. I found where he was. I wanted to start working again, and he told me, no, I don't want you here for the rest of the day. You're fired. I don't want you ever working with me again. I told him, please, this will be the last time we ever work together. He said, no, go take a walk the rest of the day. So I decided to go ahead and comply with this because I didn't want anything further embarrassing to happen. And I went and took a walk. I ended up walking a couple streets down to a nearby park and just sat there for a few hours from about 8 o'clock to maybe 11:15.
In the morning?
In the morning. And I returned to find that his car was no longer in the parking lot. He was no longer at the site. I talked to our boss, and he said he'd already left at 9 o'clock in the morning. Didn't say where he was going, didn't say if he would ever be back. So I went out in front of the dealership, and no sign of him whatsoever until maybe 12 o'clock in the afternoon when I was offered a ride home with a coworker whom I didn't know. And from then, I went to our house. Nobody was home. I didn't have my key, and so I decided just to walk the 1.5 miles to my mother's house and to deal with things from then. And we just decided that I should live there, and it was no longer going to work that I lived with my father.
When did you go and get your property?
That night, I went to go and get some useful stuff like clothing, things that I found to be very personal.
Did you go with your mother?
Yes, I went with my mother and my stepfather, and we made a call to the police for a keep the peace call so that nothing gets out of hand.
So what is it that you claim your father has of yours?
For Christmas this last year, I received a Fender bass guitar.
So a guitar, what else?
Some t-shirts, some leather pants, some of my stuffed animals that I wanted to keep because I have cherish over those. A snow globe I got for Christmas from my step-grandmother, some teddy bears that I received for Christmas.
Okay, but mostly the guitar.
Mostly the guitar and a VCR that he gave me.
So tell me what happened at work that day.
Well, the morning had started out a little rough. She had informed me before we started work that she was in a, quote, PMS mood. So I was already informed that this was going to be a rough afternoon. Her mood escalated through the course of the day, and the situation we were in, the work conditions we were in, were kind of difficult. She became frazzled by that, and it escalated from there to the point where she was using obscenities and such, and I knew at that point that we needed to change the situation, where I asked her to step away. She refused. It escalated. Finally, she did step away, but after she had stepped away, my boss came up and informed me I no longer was employed there, and I requested to leave post haste.
So you got fired?
Essentially.
You no longer work for them?
Actually, they just recently contacted me to ask me to return, and I have. as of this last weekend.
So you were out of work for at least 2 months.
Yes.
What happened with your daughter's things?
As of that evening, we had gone through, my fiance and I, her bedroom, which was an absolute pigsty, cleaned everything up, boxed everything, placed it out on the front stoop where they were informed to come and get it. As she has all those possessions, less the guitar, a TV, I know nothing of a VCR, and some other items that I can't release to her.
Why can't you release them to her?
One is a cell phone that I am financially responsible for. The other one is a handgun that we go target shooting on occasion. And unfortunately, she cannot have possession of that due to the fact she's living with her stepfather is an ex-convict.
You don't give a 15-year-old
Right.
handgun anyway. You have a guitar.
Yes. I wanted to exercise some tough love, and I felt retaining these items in lieu of maybe an apology I could receive on this, which I have not received as of yet.
You don't have a VCR, but you have a television set.
Correct.
Was that television set a gift to your daughter?
Also.
You didn't mention that.
I don't really want the TV set back because at my mother's house, I get to stay in my brother's room, and they had already a TV set in there, and I didn't find it necessary to have 2 TV sets.
And you know nothing about a VCR?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, I received that VCR because he had bought a new VCR, and he told me that this one is no good and that it'd be better than throwing it out if I took it and used it in my room.
I stand corrected.
So there is a VCR there someplace?
Non-functional, but there is a VCR.
Okay, so she wants the guitar and the VCR. You have any more of her stuffed animals?
Not that I'm aware of. There are some Christmas items she's welcome to, yes.
Okay. So what your father wants, Ms. Schumann, really, is an apology. When you went to live with your father, you were 10?
Yes, I was about 10 years old.
Was that a court order? Or was that an arrangement between your parents?
I think it was an arrangement because I felt it'd be best that since my mother was leaving the house, that me and my brother be split up, so that'd be less problem for her, i.e. me and my brother not fighting so much. And
How old is your brother?
He's 17 right now.
Gotcha. I'm here to, other than these items which your dad's going to give you back, to make things better.
Okay.
From the time you were 10 years old, did he take reasonable care of you?
Physically,
Be honest.
yes, but
Yeah.
emotionally, not really.
He may not be perfect. Did he try?
I felt that he didn't try very hard when it comes to day-to-day living.
Maybe he didn't have the capacity. All
That's
right?
what I felt too.
Maybe. But teenage kids are sometimes difficult.
I agree.
Right?
Yes.
Had some of those. Bert's had some of those. Are you happy living with your mother now for a while?
I'm quite happy living over there.
Schumann says after a fight with her father, Eric Schumann, he kicked her out of the house and kept her belongings.
Now, your father doesn't intend to keep these things from you. What he intended to do was he wanted you to say, I'm sorry for causing you so much difficulty. You were in a bad mood. I got fired. I was off work for 2 months because of what happened. At least say sorry.
I understand that. And I also feel that, I don't want to seem like, a stuck-up child, but I feel that I should receive an apology for being abandoned in Long Beach.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the right thing to do. Sometimes parents aren't perfect. I'll tell you a story. When one of my children came home from college, their first year, I went and picked them up at the bus station. He got off the bus, and I noticed something glimmering in his ear. I said, oh, that's interesting. Take it out. This was a long time ago. I've softened up a little bit since. As long as it's not sticking on the end of his nose, I'm happy. But then, I said, what is that thing hanging out of your ear? Oh, told me pretty much, get a life. So I said to him, you and your friend may get into the car. The earring cannot. So he thought I was joking. I attempted to get into the car, and I left. I left him at the bus station. And he managed to find his way home. Sure, he said, how could you dare do that? Leave me at the bus station. I said, I will, I'm here picking you up. I travel. Get the earring out of your ear. So he came home and spent the Thanksgiving holiday, and he went back, and I drove him back to the bus station. And as soon as he got into the bus, put it back in his ear. But I did abandon him at the bus station. Now, does that mean I maybe could have handled it a little bit differently? Absolutely. But he knew I loved him. Sometimes parents are not perfect and they don't handle things perfectly. That doesn't mean you're supposed to stay angry at your father forever. He certainly doesn't want to be angry at you.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want it. So give him a hug.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
And
Okay.
I wasn't angry at him. I did, in fact, make an effort to get a hold of him after, what, a month?
Approximately.
About a month, to inform him, you know, since moving out, I have picked up with my life, and
I'm very proud of her.
like I'm in the drama. I'm going to be in the drama play. I'm in the show choir. I'm in the choir at our school. I'm in the band at our school, and I'm taking more responsibility with my life. And I just wanted to share that with him.
Okay. So you'll make arrangements to get your guitar and the VCR. You take care of that within the next day or so?
Certainly.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He wasn't exactly the perfect father, but he did try.
We learn from our mistakes.
Don't mouth off. It gets you nowhere.
I'm so sorry for what's happened. I hope we can mend what, bonds we've broken and get our relationship back together.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Rogers. Step forward, please.
33-year-old convenience store manager Grace Smith is suing her former live-in boyfriend, 34-year-old foreman Bruce Rogers, for the cost of her braces. She claims he paid for the braces with money from their joint savings account.
All right, this is a very convoluted and mysterious case since each of you is suing for the same thing, the cost of your braces. I'm going to try to piece together what I understand from these complaints, because they are rather strange. The two of you lived together with your children for several years. According to you, Miss Smith, there came a time when you wanted to have braces put on your teeth to straighten your teeth, make your smile better. The braces were about $3,300. You say that the defendant went to the orthodontist and surprised you, came home and gave you a paid receipt saying, I paid for your braces, and you believed that was a gift. Within a year of that, you separated. At the time of the separation, the defendant, according to you, had $8,000 in his savings account. But it was clear that you had also put in money into his savings account over the years that you lived together. So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant wrote you a check for $4,000, saying this was our savings account. You put in money, I put in money, here's half of the savings account. You say that he had, in addition to the savings account, money coming in from a job that he was doing, $6,000. And you feel as if you would be entitled to half of that as well. So far, correct?
So far, yeah.
And he says, I'm not giving you any money from work that I did already. I paid for your braces. Or, just don't have any right to that money. So you want the money back for the braces, which he already paid for. You understand that?
You the judge.
I know. Mr. Rogers is suing for the cost of the braces. $3,300, since he says he's not going to have a chance to see that smile because you don't look it together. Is that your claim?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Miss Smith, would you tell me why you believe that you would be entitled to any part of the $6,000 that Mr. Rogers had coming in from a job?
Okay, I put, over the 2 years that we were together, I put over $10,000 in the savings account. First year, we took $5,000. I put $5,000. He put $5,000 on the house. The rest of the money stayed in a savings account. The second year, I put another $4,600 in there. $4,000 of it he gave me back. There was another $6,000 that I have no account for. That's the reason I asked him, I said, what about the $3,000 that's coming in? Well, you're wearing your braces out the door. I'll never get to see you smile, so there's your $3,000. During the time we was together, I was taking our children and getting their teeth fixed. We started talking about it. I said, I don't like the gap in my teeth. I said, I never smiled. Well, he said, will you go check on it, see how much it costs and everything, let me know, and I'll go pay for it. So I did. If I didn't have the money to go pay for it, so I went and checked on it.
Well, you did. It came out of your savings account.
And so he
Just a second. Ms. Rogers, where did you think he got the $3,300 from to pay your braces?
from the savings account,
Of course.
for where we both put money in.
I understand that. But you knew he was taking the money out of the savings account. Over the years that you were together, didn't you purchase anything that came out of that savings account?
I never touched the savings account.
Well, you never touched it. But it was used for purchases of things. Didn't you purchase things, go on vacation, do things?
Yes, we did.
Of course you did. I mean, you don't expect any court to go over your finances for the last 2 years and figure out where each dollar went that was in that savings account.
No, ma'am.
Of course not. So you got braces. Braces were $3,400. There's your money. He gave you 4. You got your braces. That's $7,300 or $7,400. And you say you put in 10 altogether, and in the course of 2 years, maybe you spent a couple of $1,000s on something, the two of you. Going away on vacations. Did you ever go away on vacations together? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Who paid for the vacations?
We both did.
From what?
From saving.
So that's what happens. Now what do you want? Now what do you want? You want the money for the braces?
Yeah.
Why do you think you're entitled to the money back for the braces?
Well, when she brought home the payment plan from the orthodontist, we sat down, we went over it. She went to the dentist. He referred her to the orthodontist, which the dentist wrote a letter stating that. And she went, the orthodontist seen what they could do for her, gave her a payment plan, and by paying all at one time, we could save anywhere between $300 to $600 depending on what payment plan we did if we paid it all at once. So I agreed that we would pay it all at once. Well, I also made the statement that she would have to help rebuild the savings because it took a lot out of the savings at the time. And it wasn't 2 months after I paid for the braces she left.
Consider it like going away on a vacation, Mr. Rogers. You went away on a vacation, only this vacation she's going to have nice teeth. You can't get either one of them back. You decided to pay it all at one time. You decided, right?
Yeah, well, we made the agreement, yes.
No. You decided. I don't think she made any kind of decision at all. You decided to go to the dentist. You wanted to save some money. You paid it all at one time, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, if you had paid it in installments, then she would have been responsible.
I wished I'd have done that.
Right. Well, hindsight is 20/20. Did you ever hear that statement? So you've got your $6,000 that you had coming in from the job when you separated. That's yours. She's got the braces. Consider it you paid for them out of your savings. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 10 on the calendar in the matter of Moon versus Sanchez. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Moon, you run a daycare center. Is that out of your home?
Yes.
How many children do you take care of?
My license capacity allows up to 10.
How long have you been doing it?
Year and a half.
There came a time, according to your complaint, that the defendant brought her baby to you to take care of.
Yes.
And she signed a contract. And included in that contract was a 2-week cancellation clause, which means she had to give you 2 weeks' notice of her intention to remove the child from your daycare. Is that right?
Yes.
And at some point, and you'll tell me when that was, you noticed that the child had what appeared to you to be a bruise on his back, and you weren't sure what it was, and you did what you felt you were required to do by law, which was to call Child Protective Services. Right?
Yes.
You arrived at the daycare center. There was a detective there, according to you.
Yes.
Ultimately, it was determined that there were no problems with the child. There was either a birthmark or a small bruise. In any event, you decided that you didn't want the child to go back to that daycare.
Yes, sir.
Immediately. And you are suing her for the 2 weeks of daycare.
And also absent days.
What's absent days?
When the child misses, it's in the contract that I still require payment when a child's absent.
Okay. Well, when was the child absent? That's not in your complaint.
He had missed 3 days. He was only there for a week and a half.
And how much did she pay you?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
No.
How many days was he actually there?
5.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And how much a day do you get?
Under her circumstances, social services assist her with daycare, and so they pay an hourly rate.
So she doesn't pay you. Social services pays you?
Yes. But social services does not cover absent days nor 2 weeks cancellation notice as required in the contract. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
It is from here to...
All right. I have a couple of questions to ask you. How many children did you have at the time that Miss Sanchez brought her son into your daycare?
That's been some time ago. I really couldn't recall off the top of my head.
Well, when was it?
It was in January. I'm assuming probably 5 or 6 because my license capacity includes my children, and they go to school all day.
So you don't know how many children you had in January?
No.
How many children do you have now?
7, plus my 3.
How many children did you have last month?
It varies.
What do you mean it varies?
Well, last month I had some children go on vacation. I had a child move to Wichita. I mean, there's circumstances to where your
How many were enrolled in your school last month? I don't care whether they were on vacation. How many were enrolled?
Like I said, I don't know.
Okay. How many people?
I didn't see that pertained to the case, so I didn't bring that information. What does the amount of children enrolled in my daycare have to do with her son having bruises?
Shh, shh. Ed, I don't want to hear anything from you. Miss Moon, when you go to a court and you have a trial, one of the things that you do is you answer the questions posed to you by either the judge or a lawyer, because sometimes information that may not seem to be relevant to you is relevant to the person who is required to make a fact-finding determination. In this case, that's me. So I believe it is relevant how many children you had last month enrolled in your school.
So
And as far as
call
I'm
and have my records looked up?
Oh, no, absolutely not. The fact
Okay.
that you, as a daycare provider with a limited number of children, have no independent memory of how many children were in your school last month, I'm not talking about a year ago or in January, is a relevant piece of information
Which
to
week
me.
would you
I
like?
will move on with my next question. Now, under what circumstances do you say you noticed these bruises?
He was complaining about his back hurting. And I have the witness here. She was one of my daycare mothers that was there picking up her child when he was complaining about it. And I lifted up his shirt and looked, and she is sitting across the room, and she was shocked by it.
Okay, so step up, please. I'd like to hear from you.
So I had arrived to pick up my daughter when I got off work, and the boy was complaining that his back was hurting. And Stephanie went over there and lifted up the back of his shirt.
This was, just a second, this was then at the end of the day.
Of my day.
What time was that?
About, I would guessing, say 3 to 4.
And did you hear the child complaining that his back hurt?
Yes, I did.
When you got there?
Right.
Did you ask the plaintiff whether the child had been complaining before?
No, I did not.
Was the child complaining before?
He had not
3
said
o'clock.
anything. He had just gotten up from a nap. That's why.
Speak, answer my question. Had the child
I said
complained
no.
before 3 o'clock?
No.
The answer was no. What time had Miss Sanchez's child come to your daycare that morning?
12:30.
Is that right?
Yes.
So the child was there for approximately 2.5 hours, and the first complaint that you heard from the child was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that right?
Yes.
Had the child been there the day before?
No, he was absent that day.
Is that correct?
Yes.
What was the reason the child was absent that day?
I had a doctor appointment, and I was gone pretty much most of the day.
A doctor's appointment for yourself or for the child?
And for myself, I was pregnant at the time.
You went with the child?
Yes, the child went with me.
How old is he?
He is now 4 years old.
How old was he when he was at the daycare center?
3 years. 3 years and like 10 months.
Now, when you picked up the child's shirt, I assume you did?
Yes.
What did you see?
Bruises.
Tell
What
me about the
appeared
bruises.
to us to be bruises.
Are they size of a small fist? Were they circular? Were they
They were,
black and blue?
well, the social services described them as
No, I don't want to hear what
bruises,
social services
and
said.
so about the size of your finger. That
Finger-
would be,
Tip, tell me what you observed.
I would say that it looked like fingertip bruises also. It was on the ribs. And I thought that I had saw them on both sides, but the SRS findings said that they did not.
I don't care what the SRS
Well, I
findings
thought
said.
that I had saw them on both sides.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question about these bruises. Were they red or black and blue?
They were dark. They were like a darker bruise. Like they had been there for a couple of days at least.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daycare owner Stephanie Moon says former client Cynthia Sanchez terminated her services without proper notice.
You called social services, is that right?
I'm mandated by law under my license to report it.
Right. Absolutely. You are. Is this the first time that you had ever reported an incident?
Yeah, the first time I've ever found bruises on a child, yes.
Okay, so it was the first time you ever reported an incident in the then year and some months that you've been in business. How many people supervise these children with you?
Just me,
Just you and 10 children?
yes.
What are the ages of the 10 children?
Well, I have a 7 and 8-year-old that go to school all day. One of my daycare children is 9. He goes to school all day. I have him in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon in summertime. I have an infant that is now 10 months myself. There is a 7-month-old. I have a 2-year-old, 2 4-year-olds right now.
Are you not required by the state to have someone there with you when all the children are there, when all 10 children are there?
No, my license capacity is for me being there, I'm allowed 10 children. If I have an extra person there, I would be allowed more children.
Now, tell me what happened when you arrived at the daycare center.
I was met by detective and social worker. I actually know detective, and
From?
my son played baseball for the police department, and that's when I met him. And I was kind of shocked to see him. I was like, I didn't know you had a child that attended daycare here. And he goes, Cynthia, I'm not here for that reason. And then he explained to me what the problem was. And of course, I was in shock. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He goes, you did. And I did not know there was bruises on my child. So that's what they said they were. So he took me back inside, and I pulled up my son's shirt, and I was looking at him. And I asked my son right in front of the detective and the social worker, they were standing right there, you know, what happened? I said, what happened? And he made the statement that he had fell off of his bike. You know, he did it on his bike, and I was kind of shocked because he had not told me that. The social worker told me I had to take him to the pediatrician the following day to have a complete exam done on my child, which was fine. I took off of work the next day. Actually, I was going to have my sister take him, and I decided I needed to be there as his mother.
Were there ever any charges filed
No,
with
Your
regard to
Honor.
this incident?
I have a thing from the SRS that says that they were not.
All right, social services found the report to be unsubstantiated. Okay. Now, at what point did you decide not to send your child back to the daycare?
The day I had took him to the doctor, she was kind of shocked at the allegations. She had seen my child since he was like 3 months of age, and I was really upset about it because I don't even hit my children. I don't hit them, and I felt like she didn't know me well enough to come to that allegation that I had abused my child. You know, kids are kids.
Okay, Ms.
Can I
Sanchez,
say something,
let me
please?
stop you right there, please. Ms. Moon did not make that determination. What Ms. Moon did was look at your child, and there was somebody else there, and they saw what they believed to be marks on him.
Right.
She is a mandated reporting source. She is required by law, if she suspects child abuse or neglect, to put in a call. That being said, I do not believe that you are required under the circumstances to give her 2 weeks' notice, because I can understand that there would be, under these circumstances, animosity.
May I say something?
Sure.
Daycares have these contracts for several reasons. One, financial stability, because you got to have a profitable business to stay open. So if you're saying, oh, well, the mother gets mad at me because I had to call social services to inspect something,
I'll give it to you both ways.
and the parent doesn't have to pay 2 weeks severance, so
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you 2 ways, madam. First of all, I've looked at your contract very carefully. Contract is something I know. You say in your contract, if you find yourself no longer in need of my services, I require 2 weeks' notice prior to termination. If you want the parents to pay for those 2 weeks, you have to put that in your contract.
Here was one other case
Default.
that I've won.
You won other cases where people terminated?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like
One.
to see it. Why people terminated you? For all these people terminated you without giving you 2 weeks' notice. I mean,
One
I can
other one?
understand
Oh,
it.
geez,
I
that's
can
a lot.
understand it.
That's all the same case. It is one file for you. To see that in our state, we are allowed our 2 weeks severance paid, because if you were fired from your job, would you not expect unemployment?
I want to tell you something, madam. If I lived in your state that permitted a single person to have 10 children in their home without any support services, without at least 2 other providers
I
in
don't
the
even
home.
have 10 children
I'm
at one time.
speaking!
So,
Case is dismissed.
grab my papers, please.
Step out.
I've had one other case, and I was granted my severance pay.
I feel like it went my favor. You see, she's hostile anyway, and I'm glad I didn't keep my son in her care.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Balarjan versus Venetian, step forward, please.
22-year-old production control assistant Elisa Balarjan is suing her former friend, 21-year-old customer service rep Thomas Van Eschen, for the cost of a trip to Arizona to attend a NASCAR race.
Ms. Balarjan, according to your complaint, you, the defendant, and I think one other person, decided to take a little vacation trip, a little road trip. And the agreement was that you would split expenses. The defendant didn't have the money that was necessary. You agreed to advance certain monies to him for the trip. So far correct?
Yep.
And then there also came a time when you were on the trip, sir, that you lost your wallet.
Yes.
And so that they were advancing you money.
Yeah, but at the same time, I had money every time.
According to your answer, there came a time when you lost your wallet. Shall I read you what you wrote?
I know what I wrote.
And they were advancing you some money.
Okay.
Isn't that what you wrote?
It is.
All right. I gather that the amount of money that was advanced is not the issue. The issue is that all three of you stayed at your grandfather's house for some part of the trip for free, and you should be credited in that amount so that that would vitiate the debt.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So what was his third of the trip?
What he still owes me, Your Honor.
No, I didn't ask you that.
His third of the trip would be $690.67.
And he paid you $150 after the trip was over, and another $100 before you went on the trip. So far, is that correct?
Yes.
Leaving $440.
I don't think I should owe any. I mean,
No.
the fact.
I understand you don't think you should owe any, but the reason you don't feel as if you should owe any is not because of the amount, but because your grandfather put you all up for free.
Right, correct, yes.
All right. When did you decide to stay at his grandfather's?
I had actually made reservations for a hotel before we had went down there. Mr. Venetian had offered us a place to stay at his grandfather's house, free of charge.
What did he say to you?
Do
Do you remember what you said?
No, I don't. I don't remember. I don't think I even said that. I mean, after we lost my wallet, I was just like, okay, we can stay at my grandfather's house. We were already staying at my grandfather's house the first night, and it's just the fact that they got all the room free, they got food free, phone bill.
I haven't gotten to that yet, sir. So he said we can stay at my grandfather's for free. Does that sound right?
I don't remember saying we could stay there for free, but yeah, sure. I mean,
Well, did you ever discuss how much it would cost to stay at your grandfather's
not.
house? You did not?
no,
How many nights did you stay at your grandfather's house?
5 nights.
Is that right?
4 nights.
Let's say 4 nights. It's easy. And did you have any meals there?
We had 3 meals, Your Honor.
In total, or 3 meals a day?
3 meals for the entire week.
Did you use his phone?
No, I did not.
Anybody else use the phone?
Not that I am aware of, no.
You know anything different? Did you ever get a bill from your grandfather for
No,
long
I couldn't
distance
get the bill
calls?
I could not get the bill from the company, so
No, did you ever get a... Pay attention. I said, did you ever get a bill from your grandfather?
I did
For
not.
long distance...
Try it again.
I'm going to try it again.
Okay.
Did you ever get a bill from your grandfather for long distance calls?
I did not.
Perfect! So you explain to me now, in 30 seconds or less, sir, why you should be relieved of your third of $440 when it cost you nothing to stay at your grandfather's house and you had no previous agreement with the plaintiff or the other person that by staying at your grandfather's house, this would do away with your having to pay your third of the trip.
Well, obviously, I shouldn't have to pay because he's part of my family, but I think they should have to pay. They would have had to pay the cost of a hotel for 2 people. They would have had to pay to go out to eat every day, and then they ran up his phone bill, which I didn't get the bill. But I mean, also I have a affidavit here that was notarized from my mother. If you want, I can give you her work number if you want to call her. I mean, she couldn't make it here. She's at work, and
It says what?
basically that she came over to my mother's house asking my mother to pay for me. She goes, yeah, he owes me money. Can you pay for him? And my mom's like, well, then sat down and talked to her about it, or stood at the door and talked to her about it. She's like, yeah, I will send your grandfather some money to cover that. And he never received a thing.
If she agreed to pay your grandfather for something and she didn't do it, which I doubt, that's between her and your grandfather. It's not between her and you. You had an agreement with her. Your agreement was you were going to split the cost of this trip 3 ways. Pay Pay it! Judgment for the plaintiff, $440, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 585 on the calendar in the matter of Frazier.
Refereeing a basketball game. The defendant was the coach of one of the teams,
Yes, it was.
and it is your claim that the defendant, after the game, assaulted you.
Yes, he did.
Had you known him before this particular game?
Well, he's actually also a referee, and we had worked together prior to that, but we know each other cordially.
When did this happen, sir?
March 13th.
And what kind of basketball game was
This
it?
was a Boys and Girls Club, 14-year-old, I believe, 14-year-old basketball game.
Was it in the evening?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
What happened basically is during the course of the game was evenly matched. During the course of the game, two kids had gotten into an altercation. They weren't fighting, they just basically had nudged each other after the whistle. At that point in time, I ran to the two children to break up whatever might have happened between the two kids. Shortly thereafter, as soon as I broke the two kids up, I looked up. Mr. Foster had run onto the court. The rules clearly state, and I have a rule book here to verify that the coach is not allowed to run onto the court. Okay, the two kids were not fighting. I broke up the situation between the two children, and when I realized Mr. Foster was on the court, I motioned for him to go back to his seat and sit down.
Did he do that?
He did it, he complied, but regardless of that, the rule clearly stipulates, and I could not deviate from what is the rule.
Don't tell me, the
What is
rules
the rule?
state that he's not allowed to come out on the court.
No, under no uncertain terms, unless a player is injured, unless I beckon him onto the court. I did not beckon him onto the court, no one was injured. It was a fight about to happen, which did not happen.
I got you. So he
Okay.
came on the court. He's not allowed to do that under the rules. You motioned him to go back. He went back.
He went back.
But then you did what?
I gave him a technical foul.
Now,
okay.
tell me what a technical foul
A
is.
technical foul is a team foul on a coach. Technical foul is 2 shots for the other team and the ball, okay?
Okay, so that means that the other team,
Got an advantage.
his adversary, got an advantage.
Exactly.
Okay, and did they win the game?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Not as a result of the technical foul. Okay,
But
there was
whatever,
plenty of
whether
time
they
left
did
on
or
the
they
court.
did, they ended up
Right.
winning the game.
They won the game.
So after the game, what happened?
After the game, I went to my partner, the guy I work with, and shook his hand and said, "Great game." He acknowledged and said, "Good game." I bent over to pick up my jacket. When I reached over to pick up my jacket, I saw Coach Foster come from his side of the bench to my side. I just assumed he was coming to say good game or whatever. He came over, and I had my jacket in one hand, and I was extending the other hand to say good game. I had my jacket on, and he punched me.
Where did he
Clearly.
punch you?
In left side of my face, right around the orbital area of my eye. Blood.
Did he say anything?
Didn't say a word, didn't argue with me during the game, did not argue with me after the game, did not argue prior to striking me. He never said a word. It was a sucker punch. It was a mugging, a back alley mugging, because I had no idea that this man was angry. His facial expression, his body, never gestured to me like he was angry.
Were there other children still there?
All around, everybody, in front of the kids. It was just,
That's what I wanted
It was
to
a
know.
disgrace to do this in front of kids.
What kind of injury did you sustain?
After I was hit, blood just flew everywhere. My eye swelled really quick. As soon as he hit me, I looked at him, I said, well, I was just about to shake your hand. I couldn't believe you did this, I have pictures here to prove just how bad it was.
I'd like to
Pictures
see
were
them.
taken the next day. Actually, that night, I believe. I had to go to the emergency room. My insurance covered my emergency room, but the next day, I didn't have any idea. But the next day, I had half of a contact lens broken, stuck in the top of my eye. I didn't even realize my eye was so swollen that I had to reach in and pull it out. I went to the eye doctor the next day, and the eye doctor told me to come in there. He would examine it while it's swollen. He wants me to come back.
Do you have any receipts or bills
Yeah, I do. I have.
from the emergency room treatment? I'd like to see.
The eye doctor wants me to come back. He wants to make sure that he examines this a couple more times, because this is a latent injury. This injury could detach retina, the orbital bone around
All right,
my
Mr.
eye.
Foster. Mr. Foster, let me hear your version of the events, please, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. It was a 14-year-old basketball game. I knew how important this game was to me, so I went to both refs to let them know that this is the playoff game, and whoever loses, they eliminated from the playoff. Their season is over. So I wanted a fair game, and because of previous games that I coach.
Do you do
they
this,
called a game against
Do you do
me.
this for the enjoyment of it, or you to get
Yes,
paid as the
Yeah,
as the coach?
I love refereeing as
Do you
well
get
as
paid
coaching.
as the coach?
No, ma'am, it's volunteer.
Okay. So you went to all the refs and you said this is an important game to me.
Right, because
Okay.
Your Honor, he really emphasized to me.
because the kids have put a lot of time and you know.
I'm sure both teams put in a lot of time.
Right, and so I wanted to make sure we had a good game, you know. Well, during the course of the game, Mr. Frazier, in my opinion, he was calling a bad game. But I played through it because I knew I had a talented team and that we can overcome this because we have beat the team before.
Your Honor, he also...
Shh. I don't want you to interrupt. He didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
So as the game went on, it began to become aggressive. And the kids were starting to push and shove and wasn't no fouls being called. So what had happened was, I think it was in the fourth quarter with approximately 3 minutes left in the game, the kids got into an altercation. They started pushing each other. And I was looking for the ref. Whether one ref had made a call, he called a foul on the other team. And then I was looking for the other ref. He was interacting with the parents on the sideline. So I just ran onto the court to break the fight up.
It was a fight?
Shh. I said don't interrupt. Go ahead.
It wasn't a physical fight. The guy was on the ground. He elbowed my guy in the groin. My guy kneed him in the back. The guy on the ground, he jumped up and got in the guy's face. So I was like, hey man, they about to fight. My instinct just ran on the court to break it up before it escalated. Well, I grabbed the guy from the other team. I escorted him to his bench, and I was explaining to him that this was too big of a game for that. I said, man, you need to just calm down, man, get yourself together before you get thrown out of the game. So I pat him on his back, walked him to his bench. I went and got my guy and did the same thing. I even went to take my guy out of the game so that he can calm down. After that, Mr. Frazier, he turned to me and said, I have to call a tech on you for leaving the floor. I was like, hey man, I went to break up 2 kids from fighting. He like, but you came onto the court. Clearly, Your Honor, that is the rule. But I thought that was the rule. When kids act in unsportsmanlike conduct, that they should also be assessed a tech. If they would have gotten a tech, it would have resulted into no free throws made. The ball would have went to the alternating possession arrow.
Whatever. Don't complicate me with the rules of basketball.
Okay, it would have went to the alternating possession arrow.
Listen to me. I understand basically that if he hadn't called a technical foul just on you...
Or me.
Try receiving.
Okay.
If he hadn't called a technical foul just on you, but had called one on the other team too, it would have washed away both of them.
Right.
Is that right?
Right,
That's
exactly,
right.
Your Honor.
But he didn't.
Right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Basketball referee Otis Frazier says team coach Darius Foster sucker punched him after a game. Darius says he thought Otis was going to hit him first.
Okay. So now you've got a technical foul because you ran out on the court and the game is over and your team loses.
Right.
Pick it up from there.
Okay. My team lost by the margin of the tech. I was very angry on it. Although I didn't say anything to Mr. Frazier or nobody else, I was upset because I knew that
I didn't know he was angry.
I knew that our season was over. I was putting my balls in the bag, and Mr. Frazier was coming through the score table. So he was walking to me as if he wanted to shake my hand or whatever. And he said, man, good game. I'm sorry I had to make that call. I clearly say, man, you didn't have to make that call. You didn't have to make that call, and I pushed him. I was angry, I was frustrated, so I pushed him out of frustration. He backed up, took his jacket, and set it down. Then he turned to me as if he was going to retaliate from the push. And I don't know, later he said that he was coming to shake my hand.
Don't tell me what he later said.
Okay, I'm sorry, Your Honor. His hand came out to me, and I didn't know if he was coming as if he wanted to shake my hand again, or was he retaliating.
So you punched him?
Yeah, I protected myself, Your Honor.
You did not. You acted in a very unsportsmanlike fashion, sir. You did not protect yourself. You used your hands first in a very unsportsmanlike way in front of other children, causing injury. Who are you?
I'm his wife. I'm his witness.
You're his witness to what?
To the whole situation.
He
that
told
was
me
there.
exactly his version of what happened. If I believe him, he's wrong. If I believe him, he's 150% wrong. He put his hands on somebody else in anger. He's 100% wrong. Not that I believe that that's the way it happened, because even he says in his answer that the plaintiff came over and extended his hand to say, good game. That's what he says.
Right.
That's what he says. And at that point, he put his hands on him. Wrong. Can't do that. But I don't necessarily believe that. I believe what happened just the way the plaintiff described, that he sucker punched him in the eye for no reason. He was not angry. He didn't lose the most important game. I mean, like $10 million is at stake in this game. You got to get your testosterone in check, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $5,000 for pain and suffering and injury. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Pamela Marr claims her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, illegally titled a Chevy Cavalier in her name. Pamela says the car was supposed to be a gift to her daughter, Ashley.
Miss Marr, Miss Palmucci is the girlfriend of your ex-husband.
Yes.
Ex-husband?
Yep. Yes.
Better. According to your complaint, you and your ex-husband got together and decided to purchase a used car for your daughter.
Yes, Ashley.
And each of you was going to contribute $400 to the car.
Yes.
According to you, you gave your husband $400 to buy this car. The car somehow was registered in the name of Miss Palmucci.
Yes.
Your daughter drove the car for a period of time, and then, for whatever reason, Miss Palmucci took the car back.
Yes.
You want your $400 back.
Correct.
Miss Palmucci said it was always her car. Step up, sir. What's your last name?
Mar,
How long have you and your former wife been divorced?
about 4 or 5 years now.
And how long have you and Miss Palmucci been together?
About 7 years.
So I assume you and your wife were separated for a long time before you divorced.
Yes.
How old was your daughter when you left the house?
Like 13, 12, 13, like that.
How old?
10. 10?
They're not always good with dates. Whose idea was it to get this used car for your daughter?
It was my idea.
Where did you find the car?
My niece had it. She was selling the car.
Did your former wife, give you $400 towards the car? Look at me.
It was my understanding that check that she gave me was for the work I did for her at her house a week prior to that. And I gave $200.
How much was the car?
The car altogether was $700.
Did you have a conversation with your former wife with regard to her contributing to the car?
The only conversation that we had was with my daughter and myself and Mary about the car. There was no verbal conversation about the car between me and my ex-wife.
Did you have a conversation with your father about the car? Step up. Tell me your first name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about when you had this conversation with your father about the car.
Well, I was at work and he called and asked me if I wanted to discuss with my mother about getting the car from my cousin.
Well, what specifically did he say?
He said, do you think your mother would go half in buying a car for you? I said, yeah, she would. So I went home and talked to my mother about it, and she said, yeah, that's a good idea.
Did your father tell you how much the car was?
Yes.
How much did he say it was?
$700.
And did you tell your mother how much it was?
Yes.
Who did you give the money to?
My ex-husband.
When?
I gave it to him on July 28th.
Did you give it to him in check or cash?
Check.
How much did you give him?
$400.
Why did you give him $400?
Because I was told that the car was $800, and later on, after I had paid it, my daughter had said it was only $700.
Did you originally tell your mother it was $800?
I think I might have.
What date did you get the car?
July 31st.
July 30th. And when was the car taken back from you?
August 21st.
Mr. Marr, you did have a discussion with your daughter about her mother going half for the car. Unless you're calling your daughter a liar. Are you calling your daughter a liar?
Me and Ashley discussed it. We didn't discuss anything with my ex-wife.
Are you telling me that you didn't say to your daughter you think your mom would go half with me on a used car for you?
No, it didn't take place, that conversation.
Really?
Yep.
Tell me the work that you did for your ex-wife that you thought she was paying you for.
I put a liner in the pool and a skimmer also.
Did you arrive at a price with her?
No, it wasn't. We didn't compromise the price.
Well, how much did you spend for the liner?
I didn't spend for anything. She bought the liner and I put it in. I installed it and the skimmer.
How long did it take you?
Half a day, about 4 or 5 hours.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Marr, is you want me to believe, sir, that you thought that this $400 was your labor in putting in the half a day?
Yeah, that I paid my brother-in-law with the other $200. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though you had not come up with an amount with your wife for what the job was going to be?
No, since she doesn't make that much money, I was just happy with whatever she gave me, that's all.
Mr. Marr, you're full of baloney, sir. Absolutely, positively, 100% full of baloney. If something doesn't make sense in this world, Mr. Marr, it's not true. If something makes sense, it's usually true. What makes sense is you having a discussion with your daughter and saying you think your mom would go half with me on a car for you, and giving her an inflated amount of $800 because that would have covered the tags and the registration, whatever it was to get it on the road. And she going to her mother and saying, would you do that? And her mother said, sure. And her mother hands you a check for $400. You don't even ask what it's for. You ask, don't know, it's for the swimming pool, it's for the liner, it's for the work, it's for the, I don't know what this is for, thank you very much for the check. Then you register the car in your girlfriend's name. What happens to her $400 when you take back the car?
I didn't register the car.
She registered the car.
Right, because I wrote out the check for the $700, which I have, and I paid for everything else, including the insurance.
Then you got it, Miss Palmucci. He scammed you out of $400.
Who scammed me out of $400?
He did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Because he got paid $400. So if you wrote out the entire check of $700 plus putting tags and registration on the car, then your boyfriend scammed you out of $400 because he got half of it from his ex-wife, which was supposed to pay
either
for
way,
the car.
the money comes out of a joint checking account, which him and I have. So he didn't scam me out of anything, because that's also where the check is deposited.
Yeah.
Into the account that we both have.
Let me see everything, please. I want to see all the paperwork, please. Going to resolve this right away. Why is the certificate of title all mangled?
Because she attempted to take it from my house and tore it in doing that.
Where's the car now?
In my driveway.
Who drives it?
Nobody right now.
Why not?
It's not registered and insured.
Does it still drive?
Yeah,
Yeah,
still
there's
drives.
nothing wrong with it.
Oh, good. You want to give him $350 for this car?
Sure. Yes.
Good, because that's all they paid for. They said they paid
In addition to the
$700.
insurance, the registration, the title, the amount that I had to have it towed in order to get the vehicle back.
Shouldn't have done that, because
Well,
you didn't get
the
the
only
whole
other
story.
choice that I was given by the police department
Listen
was that
to
I
me.
should file
You
a
didn't
complaint
get the
of
whole
theft.
story, madam. The whole story was these two people have a child together. They decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation
I'm
between
speaking.
him-
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful. You got yourself in the middle of it, and you shouldn't have. But she's going to give you $350. You get the other $400 from him, because that's what she paid him for the car, and you're going to sign over the title to her right now.
I can't sign the title until after the other case goes to court.
What other case?
There's another case that's going to court on the 14th of November.
For what?
Her claim against him for assault.
Her claim against him for
Yes,
assault?
here's the paperwork. You want to see that?
Can I see it, please? This has nothing to do with the title to the car.
It does. It's in there. It says that she went there and that she attempted to get the title to the car.
I gotcha. We'll give you a copy of this tape. You take it, you show it, and you indicate to the judge who hears that case, if a judge is going to hear that case, that you were directed to, and you have agreed and acknowledged to follow my direction. You're going to sign this over to her, and she's going to give you $350. Bird, have her sign it right now. You created a whole lot of trouble, Mr. Marr, by not being honest with the women in your life. Sign it.
Sell it.
You have now purchased the car yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
She gets $350. Now she's whole because she's going to take his $400 because they have a joint bank account. You got it?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Jonathan Kwasniewski claims he was an uninvited guest at a party when he was attacked by Luke Archibek and his friends. Jonathan says his jaw was broken and he was knocked out cold.
Mr. Kwasniewski, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you at a house party. He says he did not assault you. He knows that you were injured. He doesn't know how that happened. He certainly knows it wasn't him. When and where was this party?
It was on March 25th, 26th. I'm not sure where it was at.
What do you mean you're not sure where it was at?
Well, I don't know the cross streets where it was at. It was in Arvada, Colorado.
Who took you there?
My brother, he got a call from our friend Joel that there was a party going on, and sure enough, a bunch of guys not having anything to do, we decided to go.
So you weren't invited by the people who were throwing the party?
Yes.
And as far as you know, none of your group was invited. You just were told that there was a party, and you showed up?
Yes.
How many of you showed up?
4, including myself.
And where had you been before?
We were at a buddy's house just hanging out, playing pool.
Drinking?
No, his parents were there. We were just hanging out, looking for something to do.
So you got there about 11:30. And how many people were at the party when you got there?
Roughly 40, 35 maybe.
Were you introduced to the people who were throwing the party?
Not necessarily people who were throwing the party, but who, were just there already.
Do you know who was throwing the party?
I don't.
Who would that be, Mr. Archibald?
It was actually my friend Scott Hodges. It was his birthday party at the time, and there was actually more like about 100 people there, and there was plenty of alcohol, and everybody was intoxicated at the time.
Why don't you not volunteer information that I didn't ask for, sir?
Sorry, ma'am.
I know you want to get it all out. I do things in a very orderly, organized fashion.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it?
Got it.
So it was your friend whose party?
Scott Hodges.
Scott Hodges. You see, if you just concentrated on answering my question, I would have understood you.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Did you know who Scott Hodges was?
No, ma'am.
Who were you?
Friend.
Did you know who Scott Hodges was?
No, ma'am.
How old was Scott Hodges?
He just turned 21 at the time.
And this was at his parents' house?
Yes, ma'am.
And they were in or out?
They were indisposed at the time. They were not in.
They weren't indisposed.
Well, they're out, yeah. I'm sorry.
They weren't home?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so tell me what happened when you got there, sir.
We get there and we see that there's hardly any alcohol left, none at all. So we're, wanting to entertain ourselves, just talking around, meeting new people. And I'm just sitting there and I'm talking to this one fella, Corey. And, I'm talking to him, he has a big scar on his face. He said he got hit with a bat, so conversation goes on. He sees my friend Jeff and his twin brother. And he says, I know you guys that jumped my friend. And he started getting, worked up. So I'm saying, hey, Corey, just, relax, just, pat him on the back. Next thing, he pushes me off and says, get the F off me. So I'm like, whoa, okay. So as soon as that happens, the whole crowd looks at me like I did something wrong. Almost as if I punched him in the face, just out of nowhere. So the whole crowd looks at me with just everybody staring at me, just wanting to beat me up. And I turn around and some kid hits me in the face, just punches me in the face. And I'm standing there like, what in the heck is going on? And Jeff comes up and says, Quas, no, don't mess around with this because we're outnumbered. It's like 4 of us and 100 of them. Okay, and so I'm like, okay. Some guy gets in my face, talks crap. I don't do anything. I say, I'm sorry. Another kid gets in my face. Says, well, you're gonna pay for what you did. I was like, I didn't do anything. Another kid gets in my face. Blah blah blah. Next thing I know is I'm getting helped up, and I don't remember anything. And when I came to, I was missing my shoes, my face hurt, I don't even remember what happened. I barely even remember jumping the fence because we were trying to get away from those guys.
Okay, so you ended up, according to your complaint, in an emergency room. Do you have the emergency room records?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at them, please. You have a police report?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at that, too. Anybody arrested for this assault?
No.
You were there with 2 brothers.
My brother and his brother.
What's your name, sir?
Jeff.
Jeff what?
Gerber.
Stand up, sir. When, for the first time, sir, did you speak to the police?
I spoke to the police about 4 days afterwards, after this happened.
And what prompted you to speak to the police 4 days afterwards?
They had called me. He went into the doctor's the day after, and he filed the police report then, so I was just waiting for them to contact me so I can give my side of the story.
And when you spoke to the police, what did you tell them, Jeff?
I told them that we went to a party where there was drinking and there was people.
Did you drink?
No, we were only there for about 10 minutes before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
But everybody else was drinking because there was no alcohol left by the time you got there.
Yeah, it was a party, so there was about 100 people, like he said.
Well, I just said that when he got there, the alcohol was all gone, which means everybody was pretty well loaded.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And as we were sitting in the back porch of the house, and Corey is the one that had started talking to me about a previous fight that I had been in about a year before that even happened with one of his friends, and tried to get all huff and puffy and tough and started cussing and saying all sorts of stuff. And then, he had challenged me to fight him, and then he had challenged John here to fight him out on the back of the lawn, and pretty much everybody heard that and just started coming outside and what's going on? And then I had seen John here get punched by a kid, I believe his name was Scott.
Okay, so he got punched by a guy named Scott.
He got punched by a guy named Scott, and then I told John here to just lay off. We don't want to get, jumped here. And then just every kid thought we were out to get him, so every kid was getting in our faces. And then I looked to my right. I'm standing with my back towards the building, the house, and I looked to my right, and John here gets sucker punched. He wasn't looking. He was facing forward while Luke here ran up next to him from his right and sucker punched him in his face.
When was the first time you met Luke?
That night.
Never seen him before?
Never.
When for the first time that evening had you seen Luke?
Right after he punched him.
So you had not seen him before that evening?
Mm-mm.
That was the first time you saw him?
Mhm.
And when was the next time you saw him?
Here.
When you were interviewed by the police 4 days later, you told them that you could identify the person who
They didn't
assaulted
even
him?
ask me that. They already knew it was Luke.
Don't tell me what the police knew. I'm looking at the police reports, and I don't see anything about Luke here.
They,
What?
Ma'am, I was never contacted by any...
You mean you spoke to the police? Did they come to your house?
Oh, they called me on my cell phone.
Called you on your cell phone? Did you give them the number?
For him?
Yes. Why did you give them the number?
Because he was there, he was a witness.
And so I assume that you wanted the police to locate the person who caused this injury to you.
I would have loved to, except I didn't know who had punched
But
him.
the reason you gave the police Jeff's number is because you wanted the police to find the person who had hurt you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jeff knew the person who had hurt you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff tells me that when he spoke to the police, he didn't tell them the name of the person who hurt you because they didn't ask him. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Well, what questions did they ask you, Jeff?
They asked me exactly who and what happened. I gave them my side of the
Just a second. So you said who and what happened. Just like I did. What did you see and what did you do? You just told me that you saw this young man who you've identified as Luke throw the sucker punch at your friend.
Well,
Right? That's what you just told me. Why were you keeping that a secret from the police?
I didn't keep it a secret. I didn't know his name. How I found out his name is that I have a buddy that knows of him, and he had contacted them somehow and found out that his name was Luke. And that's how we all know. And I recognized him once I saw him. Yeah, that's the kid that punched him.
So what you're telling me is 4 days later, you didn't tell the police that you could identify the person who punched him.
I could identify him.
And the police asked you nothing else?
They asked me his name. They didn't ask me what he looked like because obviously he'd be wearing something different 4 days later.
I'm not talking about what he was wearing, sir. This happened 9 months ago. And the first time you've seen him, after you saw him for a moment at this party, 9 months ago, was here in court. And for how long did you see him? You saw him for the first time when he punched your friend. Is that right? You saw him run away.
What had happened is that after I saw him punch him, I had rushed up to him and pushed him off, pushed him away, and then that's how it was the image of his face stuck in my head, and that's when everybody started jumping me, my brother, and his brother.
Okay. On your own 2 feet, sir.
Yes, ma'am. What happened was I was downstairs and I was drinking and everything, and yes, my friend Corey was with me at the time, and we were downstairs.
This is Corey?
Yes, ma'am.
You're the Corey?
No, different Corey. No, not that Corey. But we were downstairs and we were drinking and everything like that, and then this girl comes downstairs and tells me that everyone's fighting out back and that Scott called for some people to come break it up. So we run upstairs, and by the time I get up there, everybody's already fighting. Like I said, it was not me who threw the punch and everything. It was actually my friend that I consort with, and actually that's how I think they know me, is through my friend, because we look alike, but no, it was not me.
Oh, so you know who hit him?
Well, yes.
You know who hit him?
Yes, kind of. Like...
No.
Yeah.
Listen to me. So you look very much like him.
Yes, ma'am.
What's his name?
Brian.
Brian what? Look at me. And how do you know that Brian hit him?
Just word around.
Did you tell that? Look at me. Did you tell that to the police?
No, ma'am. Like I said, I've never came in contact with any police officer.
You know the name Brian?
No, ma'am.
You don't? No. Well, you didn't know anybody at this party. No. You just showed up. Very stupid. You're the other Corey.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your last name?
Clendenning.
Were you downstairs drinking?
I was actually
Luke?
downstairs not drinking, but yes, I was there.
Tell me what you observed when you went upstairs.
Just a lot of people out back scuffling around, grabbing each other, swinging. It was pretty hectic.
You know this person, Brian?
Yes, I know of him.
You know of him?
Yeah.
Was he at the party?
Yes.
Did you see him up there during the scuffle?
Yes.
Did you see the plaintiff assaulted?
I saw him down when I was outside. When I came out, he was already down.
Did you come up from the basement with the defendant?
I was probably 5 feet behind him.
So you came up together?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you came up together, the plaintiff was already on the ground?
From what it looks like, yes. I mean, there were so many people, and it was him. There was Jeff Lance, which is Jeff's twin brother.
So you know them?
Yes.
How old are you, sir?
20 years old.
What do you do for a living?
I used to work at Lucky Strikes. Now I work for a Coors Brewing Company.
Did you have a lot to drink that night?
I didn't drink at all because I was with my girlfriend. She's kind of judgmental and all that.
I believe you. Anything else you want to tell me?
Yeah. Why would all my friends and his friends tell me that it's him that hit me and not Brian.
Let me explain something to you, sir. That's hearsay.
Right, but Jeff can recognize Luke. Jeff punched Luke in the face.
You have to make a determination when you sit as a fact finder as to whether or not 9 months later, after glimpsing at somebody for a second during a fight, you can make an identification. And I have to be very satisfied, even though this is a civil proceeding, that if I'm going to find somebody guilty of assaulting you, I'm going to find the right person guilty of assaulting you. Right. So what do we have? We have clearly you were injured. Your jaw was wired up.
Yes.
You were pretty well knocked around. There's no question that somebody during that fight, either one person or more than one person, got the best of you.
Yeah.
No question about that. But you don't know who it was.
Well,
you don't know who it was.
Ma'am, he did the same exact thing to his best friend a month later. Ask him. Go ahead.
I'm not asking him. I don't have his best friend here. This is not a free-for-all. This is not a one-stop shopping. What you have, sir, is a case where you say, this young man assaulted you. He may have. But what I'm telling you is, sir, if this is your friend, and your friend found out the name of the person who assaulted you 4 or 5 months later, which, believe, then his responsibility is to call the police and say, I found out the name of the person. This is his name, because you have a serious assault. Police would have taken him into custody, put him in a lineup, and said, can you pick out the person who you claim committed? It's not an appropriate lineup. 9 months later, when you come into court, and there's one person standing in the defendant's spot, and your friend 9 months later says, well, now I remember. I saw him for a moment 9 months ago, and that's the person. That doesn't give me a secure feeling about saying to him, you're the person who assaulted the plaintiff. Do you understand? Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Donnie Gatewood claims his daughter, Crystal Gatewood, and her boyfriend, Christopher Mayer, owe for loans. The defendants are countersuing, claiming Donnie put sugar in Christopher's gas tank.
Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Gatewood, this young lady is your daughter, and the co-defendant is her boyfriend. They have a couple of children together. They are not married.
Correct, ma'am.
It is your claim that you made a loan to them,
Yes,
a loan
ma'am.
in the amount of, I believe, $4,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That they were supposed to pay you back. They didn't do that.
Correct.
Your daughter and the boyfriend say that this was not a loan, this was a gift, because they had fallen on some hard financial times, and that you became more and more obsessed with getting this money back, an obsession that rose to the level of harassment. They are counterclaiming, claiming that you not only harassed them, but that you vandalized Mr. Mayer's car.
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They are 2 and 6 months.
Is Mr. Mayer the father of both of those children?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I was a forklift driver.
Well, how long ago were you a forklift driver?
A few weeks ago,
And how long were you a forklift driver?
for about 6 months.
Before that, what did you do?
Forklift driver at another job.
Why do you keep changing jobs?
Because Mr. Gatewood keeps calling on my jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's somebody else's fault. It's not your fault that you lose these jobs.
Right.
Mhm. How much did you make at your job?
I was making $8.50
$8.50
hour.
That's not a lot of money.
No, ma'am.
Can't support yourself and 2 children on $8.50 an hour. So what do you do for a living?
I stay at home with the children.
Well, you can't afford to do that.
Well, right before this job, he had a job that paid $12.90 an hour.
$12.90 an hour, a virtual windfall. You think you can support a family on $12.90 an hour gross?
I think that's a pretty good amount.
And when did you lose that job?
In November.
And you went right to work for somebody else?
Yes.
When did they call and ask you for money?
About the first part of February of this year, your ma'am.
Now, if you were working in February, what did you need money for? Look, don't go like that. I don't know. If he's working as a forklift operator at a job that he can support a wife and 2 children, girlfriend, excuse me, why did you call your father for money?
Pretty much he continued to lose every job right around 3 weeks. And each time the boss of the job would call and say, I'm sorry, we have to let you go, but there's a complaint that we got from a person calling in. And
a boss doesn't fire him if he's doing a good job because some stranger calls that he doesn't know and says he's not doing a good job. That doesn't make sense, Miss Gatewood. Okay, so you called your father and said that you needed money.
we actually called him and said, could we stay with you for a while until we got something saved up?
So, Miss Gatewood, so you called the person who you thought was responsible for your husband For your husband. I keep saying that. I must be old-fashioned. For your boyfriend losing his jobs, job after job after job. So what you did was call him and say, could we come and stay with you?
I asked for me and the kids to come and stay.
I'm trying to get where you're coming from. You call the person who you believe is responsible for all your bad luck and say, can we come and stay with you? And what did your father say?
He said we could stay for a few days, but he'd like to try to find us a place to stay for us to be stable.
Okay. And you said?
I said that'd be great.
And?
We went looking for mobile homes. We finally found one that we could buy for $1,000. So he told us that he would get us a loan to help build my credit.
Great. So you went to the bank?
Yes.
And what happened to the bank?
We got a $4,000 loan that my dad agreed he would pay. I didn't have a job at the time. Chris knew nothing about it.
Chris knew nothing about it. When you moved into this mobile home that you found, he wasn't going to move in with you?
Chris wasn't any part of the loan. He was going to live with me.
Just answer my question.
Yes, he was going to live there.
Well, if he was going to live there, where did he think that you got the money from?
I told him my dad was going to help us out. That's what we were told. It was going to be a gift.
Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Gatewood, do you want to tell me your version of what happened with your daughter and this money?
Yes, ma'am. At approximately first part of February of this year, my daughter called me crying, saying that she was being evicted from her apartment. Said they had no money for gas, no money for food. It was snowing. They wanted to know if they could come with me. I said, you and the girls can. That young man can't hold a job. He's not welcome. I got off the phone. About 20 minutes later, I called my daughter back. She was upset. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to help you. It's going to be a loan. You got a tax return coming. You can pay me back part of it this year and part of it next year. At that time, that loan will establish your credit. It will also gain you new residency, which it did. We got a trailer for her, 14 by 70, 1974 trailer. Got our washer and dryer, got our couch, got our refrigerator. And
when you say you got her, did she go with you shopping?
Yes, we actually purchased a trailer.
The washer and dryer came with it.
The washer and dryer and the couch basically came with
the refrigerator he got from work. Okay, for free.
That's
now,
correct.
You took out, according to you, a $4,000 loan. The trailer was, according to your daughter, $1,000. What happened to the rest of the money?
That's correct. We gave the actual person that we bought the trailer from $2,800.
No, we did not.
For the trailer and all the belongings in the trailer, for the furnishings.
You have proof of that?
All I have is the loan, ma'am.
Well, I'd have to know what happened with the money.
Well, I gave her the cash to help.
Look at me.
I gave her cash so they could pay their car payment so they wouldn't lose their car.
Okay.
That's not correct.
How much money did your father give you?
He gave us $1,000 for the mobile home, $500 paid for the washer, dryer, couch, and stove that came with it, and $500 towards lot rent and starting all our utilities up.
So he actually gave you $2,000?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
That's not true, Your Honor. We gave the gentleman $2,800, and the other $1,200 I gave to my daughter. I did not give it to him. I gave it to her in cash.
Okay. Now, they're supposed to pay you back with their tax return, but something happened, Mr. Gatewood, according to your complaint, that irritated you. Your daughter said, according to you, she said she couldn't make the first payment.
Correct.
So you went to the bank and made the payment. That was $300 and some odd.
$375, yes, ma'am.
Then what happened, sir?
From that time, she basically asked for me to pay her lot rent as well. And I promptly went straight up there within the hour and paid her lot rent.
How much was the lot rent?
$300.
What were you doing all this time?
I was working.
Why wasn't your rent being paid?
Actually, he went up there himself and paid it off, and
But
then
why
gave
wasn't
her a
your rent?
phone call.
Listen to me. He would not have known to pay the lot rent unless somebody told him that the lot rent hadn't been paid.
Well, our deal.
I'm not asking you. Why hadn't you paid the lot rent?
Because I haven't had my first check yet.
So your lot rent was not paid. Your food was not paid. If you didn't have any money, so you were using the money. Is that right, Mr. Maher, that he gave you?
I never had money.
Well, you were eating, weren't you? You weren't on life support.
She has food stamps that she gets food from and everything.
Why would she have food stamps?
Because
She's
we
on
keep
Medicaid.
struggling. We're never getting
Well,
it.
if you keep struggling, what'd you have another baby for? You think that was going to make it easier? Okay. Did you get your tax return back?
Yes.
How much did you get?
I think altogether about $4,500.
And it didn't dawn on you to pay your father back for this loan?
No, we were never told to pay him back.
Well, you're here now. And he must have said something before you arrived here today.
We were told it was a complete gift.
You were told that by your father?
Yes.
So between February and March, when he came to the house and told you that he wanted some money, because that's what you say in your answer, you think he had a psychotic breakdown?
My dad
I mean, you
goes-
think he had a psychotic breakdown?
I think he goes through different moments where one day he wants to be our friend and the next day he doesn't.
That's not be your friend, and one day he doesn't want to be his friend until he grows up and accepts responsibility for making 2 children and holding down a job regularly. What I'm asking you is, if your father comes and says, look, I took out a loan, I need you to pay me back part of it now and part of it next year, and you just got $4,500, why you wouldn't do that? Why you wouldn't do that? It's your money. You're the one who works. She doesn't work. She gets food stamps.
Every time they went to do something with whatever they were doing with the money or whatever, he came over and got her, and they left and did whatever they did. I stayed at home with the kids those times. Never knew anything, never signed
Well,
anything.
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that you never knew anything. I believe that he came and got
Well,
her.
I
and
knew
he
where
wanted
they
to
were
know-
going, yeah.
You knew what they were going. You knew what they were going for, right?
Yes.
It's just that Mr. Gatewood didn't want to deal with you. He doesn't approve of the fact that you made 2 children. You have his daughter living from hand to mouth. She's not helping herself, but certainly you're not stepping up to the plate and assuming the responsibility of a head of household. So he doesn't want to have anything to do with you until you grow up. I could understand that. So he takes his daughter. That doesn't mean you're a defendant, because I don't think that you made your arrangement with him. I think you made your arrangement with her.
I made it with both of them, ma'am, and he knows that.
No. Even you tell me that you didn't make the arrangement with him. You went to the bank with her.
Not initially on the phone, ma'am, but when I went over to their trailer or to their apartment before I went to the bank, I told them that that's what was going to happen. I was going to go
Just
to the bank.
because you told them that that was going to happen, sir, does not a contract make.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
That's a parent saying, this is what you're going to do.
Sure.
And unless you have somebody said, fine, offer, acceptance, then you don't have a contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think your agreement was with your daughter. And I don't believe her when she says it was an absolute gift. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come over to the house to try to get payment.
He came over to the house because we quit talking to him. We just wanted nothing to do with him. He started...
Well, why would you have nothing to do with him before he took out a loan for you as, according to you, a gift for $4,000?
Because...
According to you. Why would you want to all of a sudden have nothing to do with him?
Because they all of a sudden wanted nothing to do with us. They didn't have us come over. My mom never came to see my daughters, nothing.
You're talking about 2 weeks? You're talking about from February to March?
Yeah, my mom would come over at least like twice a week and see them, and she just quit coming over, quit caring.
Oh, you're just a victim. You're a terrible victim. What do you think? You think both your mother and your father had psychiatric problems during those 2 weeks?
No.
But what do you think happened?
I don't know. I think they got money greedy and...
They got money greedy?
Yes. I think we deserve that money because as many jobs as my dad has cost Chris.
Miss Gatewood, if you believe the fact that your father caused Chris to lose his job, you better have a head adjustment. He may have convinced you of that, but the truth of the matter is, that's a lot of baloney. A lot of baloney. Do you think I'm a smart lady?
Yes.
They don't keep me around here because I'm 5'6" and gorgeous. They keep me around here because I'm very, very smart. And I have a history with people. Things make sense or they don't make sense. Parents who are faced with the fact that their daughter has had 2 illegitimate children with a man who can't hold down a job, but who seems to be in love with him and seems to at least want to try to make a life with him, don't sabotage that by getting him fired from his job so that their daughter will be out in the cold with her 2 children.
I believe it's a control thing. Like, he always wants to know where I am, everything. He's always tried to bring me back to his house.
No, he's not. You called him and asked if you could come home, and he said you can come home for a while, but I'd much rather see you in your own place. He doesn't want you to come home with the 2 children. He doesn't want to be a parent to your 2 little children.
And he doesn't want to be a grandparent either.
Oh, Miss Gateway, you are truly a victim. Maybe you found the perfect foil. What you are is a big baby who has babies, but who made an agreement with your father, and then he said, I'm not giving him my $4,500. There's no way. I didn't make an agreement with him to give him $4,500, and you don't have $4,500 because you don't work. And that's what started the problem with your father. Because if you believe that your father was the cause of all of your troubles, you have to be crazy to call him up and to say, can I come home with the girls? So you really didn't believe that because you could have called his parents and said, we're being evicted. You didn't call them. You called the terrible people who were sabotaging your life. Grow up. Because your tears don't make it with me. I guarantee you, they shed more tears than you did. No. Bad people. They're really bad people. The fact that you picked somebody who can't hold a job and who can't accept the responsibility for children that he made. That's their fault too.
He's there for his kid and he tries.
Well, he shouldn't be there for his kids. He should be working. You're there for his kids. And you should be working too. And in addition to food stamps, as long as you're not married, which is one of the reasons you get food stamps, along with the food stamps, there are federal programs that give you free daycare. Put your kids in daycare and get a job.
I had a bad influence with the daycare one time. One of my daughters got hurt.
Also, somebody else's fault. So get another daycare. And you don't solve your problem by making another baby.
I know.
Maximum limit that you're suing for is $3,000 on your complaint. On your complaint, I'm awarding you the $3,000 because that's the maximum in your jurisdiction. I have a counterclaim. Counterclaim says, Mr. Gateway, that you put sugar in Mr. Marr's gas tank.
That is not true.
Go ahead, prove it.
We got a call from him about 5 minutes before.
Who's we?
Chris received the call. I was over there and also Chris's best friend. And he said...
Wait just a second. You were over where?
I was at the house.
But you didn't get the call?
No, I wasn't answering any phone calls.
Fine. Then you tell me what the call was.
I'll answer it. It's Mr. Gatewood, and he says, well, since you guys aren't going to cooperate with me now and blah, blah, blah.
No, I don't want to hear blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah I can get when I speak to my 3-year-old grandchild. I want to hear what he said to you, Mr.
He said,
Marr.
since you guys don't want to cooperate with me now.
Don't want to cooperate. Those are the words he used? Since you guys don't want to cooperate with me, go ahead.
There's sugar in your gas tank, and I hope it blows up.
So what did you do?
We went out and checked the gas tank.
I immediately hung up the phone, went outside. Me and my friend went outside. I opened the gas tank, see some white substance at the bottom. Checked my friend's truck. There's more on his than mine. I guess he thought I'd bought a new truck. We called the cops. They came over, took a report.
The cop states in the report that there is.
Don't tell me what the police said. I'll see the police report.
I think it's on like the 3rd page.
Who blacked this out?
The police station does it.
Fill in the blanks. Mayor, that's you. This is what you told the police. Stated that the problem stemmed from a loan that blacked out, co-signed for blank. That's what you told the police. According to Mayor, you have been harassing them for the last couple of days, including calling their home constantly. Prior to calling the police, he was speaking to you on the phone. Conversation quickly became heated and turned into an argument. While they were speaking, you told Mayor he put sugar in the gas tank of his car. Mayor and your friend then checked the gas tank of both their vehicles and saw crystal-like substance, so Mayor called the police. So here, Miss Gatewood, your boyfriend, acknowledges that this was a loan. Was there anything wrong with your car?
Yeah.
Uncross your hands. You have either the estimate or the cost of fixing it?
No, I don't.
Well, where is it?
I let my friend fix the filter of my car.
So you had no damages?
No, you had to change the whole
I had
complete
to change the
fuel
filter of my gas tank.
Well, where's the bill?
I paid him $100 to go get the filter and fix my car.
So what you're telling me is you have no proof that there was any damage done to your car.
Right.
You owe your father $3,000. Who knows whether he's going to be forever? When people get married in this country today, there is a 52% chance that the marriage will terminate. When people start off like the two of you starting off, the expectation is that statistically you will not know what he looks like in 5 years. Very great. You only have in your life 2 parents. Those 2 people. I would suggest that you think about that. I would also suggest that you think about the fact that certain things make sense and certain things don't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And the fact that he has convinced you that the cause of his problems at work is your father is just ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000.
Helen Levi says her daughter's ex-boyfriend, Dion Burdett, crashed 2 of her cars. Helen says on the second occasion, Dion was driving drunk.
What's your first name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, this used to be your boyfriend?
Yes.
Your mother's complaint is that on 2 separate occasions involving 2 separate cars that she bought for you, you allowed Mr. Wonderful over here to drive the cars and he totaled them.
Yes.
The first incident, there was insurance, and there was a $500 deductible. Second instance, she bought you another car. You again allowed, what's your first name?
Dion.
Dion, to drive the car because you don't learn from your mistakes. And he totaled the second car.
Yes.
Then you decided you had enough.
Yes, that's correct.
When was the first accident, Dion?
January 26th.
Tell me about that.
I asked her to leave me the car in case I
Were you
needed to
living
go.
together?
Yes.
How long had you been living together?
Approximately 6 months.
You asked her to leave you the car. Why?
In case I needed to go somewhere because I didn't have insurance on my vehicle at the time.
Where was she going?
She was going to school.
And what were you doing that day?
I just sat at home all day until I went to pick her up and had an accident.
Was that a weekday?
Yes.
Well, were you going to school at the time?
No, I wasn't.
Were you working at the time?
No, I wasn't.
Why not?
I'm not really sure, Your Honor.
Well, how long was it that you weren't working, Dion?
Approximately 3 months.
Who was supporting you? Get her a copy of that book, Beauty Fades, Dumb is Forever. You were supporting him?
I wasn't really supporting him. My parents were helping me pay the rent. I was just helping him out.
So your parents were supporting him?
They were.
News to me.
See what you find out? What do you do for a living?
I'm a housewife.
And your husband?
He's an investment representative.
So he works?
Yes, he does. Very hard.
How long have you been married?
22 years.
In the 22 years that you've been married, how many months has your husband been out of work?
None.
Never?
Never.
Right? Never. How old are you?
22 years old, Your Honor.
Before you moved in with Jennifer, where were you living?
At my parents' house, Your Honor.
What does your father do?
He is an airplane mechanic at O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
Do you ever remember a time when your father sat around eating bonbons for 3 months and not working?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Why do you think that is, Dion?
Because he has children to pay for, Your Honor.
Because he likes to eat.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like to live in the street.
No.
Now, when you left your parents' house, were you working?
Yes, I was.
Where were you working?
Cub Foods.
Doing what?
I was in the meat department, cashier. Dairy
What happened to that job?
I lost it
Why?
due to too many absences.
Why were you absent?
I was sick, road conditions, stuff like that happens.
What was wrong with you?
I had the flu. I mean,
For 3 months?
no, not for 3 months, but I mean, I was out of work for 3 months.
All right, now let's get to the first accident, Dion, because I've tortured you about your responsibility in growing up long enough, because even I'm getting bored with it. I don't know if I'm getting through to you, sir. If you want to be a grown-up and live out on your own, you have to work. 22 years old, still not fully cooked probably, but that doesn't mean you live off the kindness of strangers. She's a stranger to you. She has her own children, and if she's supporting her daughter, and if her husband is supporting her daughter, they don't have to support you too.
That's true.
Thank you. So you asked her to leave you the car just in case she wanted to go looking for a job that day.
True.
I almost forgot how entertaining this could be. Sort of forgot how dumb people can be. All right, so you kept the car so you could go and look for a job, but you didn't go and look for a job. Where did you go, Dion?
I didn't go anywhere.
You mean the car had an accident in the house? How did that happen? Explain that to Officer Byrd. He would really like to hear that.
I was on my way to pick her up from school, Your Honor.
Had you gone anywhere else that day?
No, I haven't.
You just stayed home and watched Oprah?
Yeah, I guess. That's what you say.
No, you tell me what you did.
Oh, well, I didn't watch Oprah, but
What
I
did you watch?
TV.
You watched me.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. Like I said,
You would have watched me more frequently, Dion, you would never be here today. Never.
That's true.
Happened.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so you went to pick her up from school, and what happened?
I was at a four-way stop. I stopped at the stop sign, looked both ways, looked forward. Nobody was going. So I started going. Here comes a car. Bam. Took off the front end. Airbags, everything.
Okay, so this car came out of nowhere.
Well, it was sitting at the stoplight, stop sign, when I looked left, and it wasn't going, so I just barely tapped on the gas, just started going, and then here comes this Mustang out of nowhere.
The plaintiff says you got a ticket for failing to yield.
True.
So then I guess the accident was your...
No.
Did you pay the ticket?
No, I didn't.
Did you have a trial?
Yes.
Were you found guilty or not guilty?
I didn't go.
Well, if you didn't go, then you were found guilty.
No, I wasn't, because they still got the insurance money.
We're not talking about insurance money, we're talking about ticket. You got a ticket for failure to yield. My question is a very simple one, Dion. You have to pay attention. I know you've been resting your brain for a long time, so you should be able to pay attention to what I'm saying to you. Ticket. Did you pay the ticket?
No, I didn't pay the ticket.
Was the ticket dismissed?
Yes.
Was it dismissed after a hearing?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't even want to go there anymore. Right? All right. So that's the first accident. And that car was totaled, you had a $500 deductible.
Correct.
When your daughter called you and told you that the boyfriend had totaled the car, what did you say to her?
I didn't know the boyfriend had totaled the car right at first. It was some time before I found all the facts.
She told you she had totaled the car?
She said it had been wrecked.
How did she tell you it had been wrecked?
It went through a stop.
It went
intersection. The road conditions were icy, had a lot of ice on the road.
Who did she tell you was driving?
I finally dragged it out of her that he had been driving.
Did you lie to your mother, Jennifer?
I had just told her that I was the one who got in the wreck because I didn't want to have to
deal with...
Yeah, I didn't want to deal with the whole...
All right, now that was January 26th, and then you said, okay, I'm going to get her another car because she needs a car to go to school.
Right.
How much money does your husband make?
Not enough to be buying her a car every year or two because he wrecked it.
Now, when did you wreck this second car, Dion?
On or about May 20th.
Tell me about that.
I had dropped Jennifer off at approximately 10 o'clock p.m.
Where?
At her friend's house. Told her specifically...
Was this a Saturday or a Sunday?
Saturday.
Where were you working then?
I was, believe...
That's not so long ago, sir. Where are you working now?
Painting.
Portraits? Houses?
No, houses.
Houses. You're going to have to stop paying me if you enjoy this job so much. When did you start painting houses?
3 months ago.
So that would bring you into June. Now, so in May, were you working?
No, I wasn't. I was in search of a job due to previous legal problems.
What kind of legal problems?
Truthfully?
No, I want you to lie to me.
I mean, I can if you want me to. I'm not going to,
Don't be a wise guy, sir. I will grind you into the carpet. Go ahead.
I got a felony at
For
about...
what?
Distributing marijuana, 1 ounce, 10 to 30 grams.
That's what you were doing. Now I understand. In between painting and meatpacking, you were distributing marijuana.
No, I did a favor for somebody that I thought was a friend and obviously wasn't, and told on me, and I got in trouble for it.
So it was somebody else's fault?
No, it wasn't anybody else's fault but my own for trusting somebody else.
So you were doing a favor for somebody, you weren't going to get paid for it.
Right.
You weren't going to get a piece of the action for it. At least if you were selling it and making some money, I could understand that. You're a real idiot. All right. So now you're looking for a job. And in May, you drop her off at a friend's house and told her... Specifically
that I was going to a local bar and have a few drinks and I'd be home early. Turns out I had a few too many and got a DUI. I blew a .242, had a fatal accident, could have ended my life. Life-changing experience.
Just a second. Wasn't fatal?
No, it wasn't fatal. I mean,
you have
it could
to
have
watch
been.
your words with me.
Right.
You have to watch your words.
Sorry.
You didn't kill anybody.
Forget it. No, I didn't kill anybody, but it could easily happen. I ran into a pole going 70 miles an hour.
So why aren't you responsible for the car, sir?
She willingly gave me the car knowing I was going to the bar. I didn't pressure her. I didn't put a gun to her head and say, give me the car. She said, okay, be back early. And I mean, I accept full responsibility for drinking and driving.
That's okay, because I'm going to enjoy this. Just go ahead and do your thing.
So your defense is that it was not your fault that you were given the car because she should have said, you can't take the car if you're going to drink. Leave the car here and go, take a bus to go to the bar.
I accept full responsibility for drinking and driving. I'm paying for it dearly. I have the papers right here to prove it.
How are you paying for it?
I have 100 hours community service. I have $1,900 in fines, and I lose my license for a year or maybe more.
Well, how does that help Miss Levi?
I've given Jennifer $600 already.
You've given her $6, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you accept responsibility for this accident. It's not Jennifer's fault.
No.
Jennifer is stupid.
It's not Jennifer's
Jennifer's going to read the book, cover to cover, backwards and forwards. Don't hook yourself up with a loser. If you hook yourself up with a loser, you're a loser. What kind of school are you going to?
At the moment, I'm just working full-time. I'm trying to save money so I can go back to school.
If you're going to school and moving forward and your family is trying to help you get there, you don't hook up with a loser who's unemployed. You don't hook up with was he arrested for this distributing marijuana while he was living with you?
No, that was way before I met him.
But you knew about it?
I did find out about it eventually.
It seems to me Dion kept a lot of things from you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,400. Thank you. That's all.
Jessica Eveler says her half-sister, Melanie Zampino, stole furniture during tenancy in her home. Jessica claims she kicked Melanie out because she was using drugs.
Miss Eveler, the defendant is your half-sister, and according to what I read, you only recently, in the last few years, had a relationship with each other.
Yes.
According to your complaint, you rented a home that you own to your sister with the understanding that she would have an option to buy it after she paid rent for a while.
Yes.
Subsequently, within a relatively short period of time after she moved in, you evicted her. But your lawsuit wants your furniture back. And you say when you left some furniture in the basement that was yours. You allowed her to use some furniture, but when she moved out, she took your things. The defendant says that you gave her a living room set, that the bedroom furniture that you claim you want back was actually repossessed by the company that you had rented it from, so she doesn't have that. And she is counterclaiming because she says that because of your precipitous behavior, which was not warranted by anything she did, she was forced to move, she had moving expenses, she was forced to move very quickly, and she wants to be compensated for that and all of her emotional distress. When did you lease her your house?
It was in July.
And when did you evict her?
I gave her notice September 10th.
Had she paid rent in August?
Yes.
Had she paid rent in September?
No.
Why did you evict her?
There was drug usage going on, and I only agreed to 4 people living in the house.
How did you know there was drug use going on in the house?
August 24th, my uncle came there, and they smoked it right in front of him.
Smoked what?
Pot.
Who did?
Melanie and a guy named by the name of Brandon.
You agreed, you said, for 4 people to live in the house?
Yes.
Who were the 4 people?
Her, Christina New Church, which is right over there, and their...
Is this a friend?
It's my roommate. We've lived together for 9 years.
Okay.
And they have each 1 child.
How many people were living there?
Between 7 and 8.
Who else was living there?
I got 2 people that were not even residing there, a piece of mail of theirs.
Can I see?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Brandon?
My cousin. He did not live there. He stayed there occasionally during the week because Christina works 3rd shift, and he tended the kids. I did pay him.
Where did he live otherwise?
He lived with his father.
Was Joseph?
My husband. Some of my utilities were in his name. My husband and I have been separated for...
Tell me about the furniture.
We did have a verbal agreement about the living room set. If she purchased the home, it would be added in with the cost of the house. However, she didn't buy the house, so the furniture didn't come with the house. And I did try to call her.
Go ahead. Let's deal with the living room furniture first.
Okay. When we discussed the house, she said to me, you can have my washer and dryer, you can have my living room set, you can have the bedroom set if you pay the last $150 to Color Time where she was renting her bedroom set from. I said, I have an antique set, I don't want the bedroom set, but I will take the living room set because mine is used. The living room set was stained with marker. One of her children must have wrote on it. Her husband works on cars. There's massive grease marks on the one where he must have sat regularly, which I have all pictures to show. She gave me the living room set. She never said if you purchase the home or if we don't come back, because when she actually on September 10th asked me to move out, she told me it was because her grandmother threw her out of the house that she was staying in South Carolina. I do not use drugs, and I'm
Can I see a picture of this living room set that she wants back?
Of just the living room set in question?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did bring pictures of my old living room set just to show you why I would switch.
You're talking about the sofas and the end tables as well?
And the coffee table. And I did attempt to take pictures of the markings.
Well, when I left, there might have been a little bit of like grease stains, but there was no marker on my living room set. It was only...
When did you purchase it?
February of 2 years ago.
You have a receipt for it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see it, please? And who lived in the house with you?
My husband and my 2 children.
How old are your children?
1 and 2.
This doesn't tell me when you purchased it. Take that, please, Bud. Return that to her. I don't know what this furniture looked like when you left, but certainly a month later, it looks pretty used and pretty abused to me. And when you have 2 young children, that's what furniture like this looks like. Certainly not worth much. You'd have to pay somebody to take it out. You would. You'd have to pay somebody to take out these 2 sofas. What's next? What about the bedroom's furniture?
I purchased that, and I actually have the original bill. And when I got into my house in late September, I came to clean it up and stuff. The bed was set up, but it was sliced. The bed was set up in the basement like someone had been sleeping there.
So what are you talking about, just the mattress?
The mattress and the headboard was damaged, and I have pictures of that.
Who slept on the mattress?
When we lived there, me and my husband.
When I lived there, no one. I had my own set.
Fine. Did you slice the mattress?
I did not. I also have a letter from Color Time stating that they repossessed her bedroom furniture that she left in the basement.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the mattress.
Oh.
And they took the dressers, by the way, because I had asked them to take the dressers.
We're not talking about a whole bunch of money. I mean, we're certainly not talking about $3,500. Maybe we're talking about $100. I'm just trying to figure out why we're all here.
I'd like to make a statement on that.
Go ahead.
Judge Judy, because I feel that we're here for the same reason that Jessica, the only time she ever interacts with me is when there's trouble to be made. When she needs something, she'll call me. When she needs a babysitter, she'll call me. I actually paid money to find her because I wanted to know my sister. And the only thing that's coming out of this, no matter how you look at it, is a destroyed relationship.
That's unfortunate. When did she tell you to move?
September 10th.
And when did you move?
She gave me until September 28th when she started calling the law and having her stepfather threaten to put me out the quote-unquote old-fashioned way.
Did anything happen September 10th that precipitated this?
No.
I basically had coming back to Pennsylvania. My grandma her name's on the house also, so she had a decision to make, and she made that.
That doesn't give me an answer. That's a lot of double talk. You were coming back to live there, is that right?
Yes.
All right, so you were coming back to live there, so you told her to move?
Yes, well, the drug usage was the reason why.
No! Because if the drug usage was the reason why, you would have told her to move on August 24th or August 25th. You didn't. Or the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You told her to move on September 10th because you had to come back to your house. So stop making up excuses. You get it?
Yes.
And you had a responsibility to give her 30 days notice. You didn't do that.
In that town, you only have to legally give 10 days.
Because you're not allowed to legally rent without a renter's permit, and she didn't have one.
Not nice. So you get nothing. Not even the $100 that maybe your mattress is worth if it was destroyed, and maybe your coffee tables were worth. Because what you did was the wrong thing. Because they're living there with, let's say, 4 people, including 2 children. 2 children who by September 10th have started school, have settled in, and because you can't live where you were going to live and had to come home, you told them to move and gave them what I consider no notice. Not even the right thing to do to a stranger, but to do to somebody who's related to you? Outrageous. Now, where did you move?
I live in Dover. I'd like not to say exactly where because I don't.
Fine. Did you pay her September's rent?
I did. I have that here.
Can I see it, please?
Then she didn't pay August. She paid 1 month.
How many months' rent did you pay?
I only paid September because when she moved, I was supposed to move in September 1st. When she moved, she had gone down to South Carolina and came back. There was some flooding. People were messing around with her house. She said, Melanie, please just move in as soon as possible. I had to clean up as well.
Just a second. When did you move in?
Mid-July.
Well, then you should have paid 2 months' rent. You only paid 1. You saved a little bit of money so that you had enough money to put down on another apartment. I'm gonna entertain.
Yes, the only problem that I had was just finding something. We moved, we
And you
lived
found
just fine.
something?
Yes.
That's good.
Can I say something, Matt? The electric and gas was shut off September 22nd. When my grandfather went the 26th, everything was moldy, the freezer, everything. So they were out for a while.
Listen to me very carefully. You did the wrong thing. You wanted to move back to your house. You wanted her out. It had nothing to do with drugs or other people living there. It had to do with you coming home because you had no place else to live. So I don't know why you're suing her, because the truth of the matter is, if you hadn't brought this lawsuit, she wouldn't have counterclaimed. She was willing to forget it.
Yes, I
Forget it. It's over. It's over. You did the wrong thing. You owe an apology, not a lawsuit. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Charlene Jurgen says ex-boyfriend Colin Hager owes for a burglary, an assault, and a loan for bail.
All right, Ms. Jerkins, you and the defendant used to have a romantic relationship, and according to your complaint, something happened a year ago that caused all kinds of problems. There was a freeway altercation between the two of you. You claim he assaulted you, then he was arrested. Then you decided that you would help him out by bailing him out. You obligated yourself to a bail bondsman. You claim he owes you money for that. You claim he owes you money for the assault. You claim he owes you money for going into your apartment at some time subsequent to this altercation and ruining your property. Mr. Hager has a whole different interpretation of what happened on the freeway about a year ago. He says that you actually stole money from him, that you're not obligated to the bail bondsman. He's obligated to the bail bondsman. He's going to have an opportunity to tell me, but you're no longer in love?
No.
Absolutely not.
You don't see each other anymore?
No way.
No.
Perfect. So, tell me what happened a year ago, Ms. Jergens.
I was in a violent relationship, so I moved out of my county to a different county, and he followed me down there. He learned where I lived.
Look at me. Don't look down there.
And he showed up and broke into my bathroom window, and he...
Were you home during all this time?
No, I was not home.
Just a second. You have any proof that he burglarized your house?
No. I have a police report of the robbery.
That you reported?
Yes, I did report it.
I can make a report. I can make a report that he burglarized my house.
He admitted he went through my bathroom window on the police report.
What date?
On November 25th of 2004, he admitted on his police report to the police in San Diego that he went through my bathroom window.
Okay, let me see that.
Didn't know.
Because November 25th, 2004 is the same day as this freeway altercation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see the report where he admits that.
I never even spoke to the police.
Shh. Just a second. Would you have her point out where he says window? Just circle it. Circle where he admits to the police that he went into your bathroom window.
He returned and climbed through my bathroom window.
That's you telling the police. You said he admitted to the police that he went through my bathroom window. I said, show me in the report.
Perhaps he admitted it to me.
Oh, please. All right. Would you get to the freeway, please? What happened on the freeway?
Well, I left my home because I didn't want any problems at my home. So I got in my car and I was traveling to my friend's house, and his car chased me, and I thought I should go right to the police department. And he followed me, and then he ran me off the road in front of an office, and the lady came out and dialed 911.
Keep going.
I couldn't call 911 because he was reaching in my window to steal my cell phone.
Keep going.
He hit my rental car, and then he sped off.
Keep going.
So basically, that's hit and run. The police arrived, took my statement, and they went to track him for the robbery and the damages to the car.
Keep going.
They found him and they arrested him. He said he had a drink and a lost phone, and he was crying and upset.
Let's get to the bail, Ms. Jergens, please.
He was arrested in San Diego. He knew my home phone number, so he called collect. And he promised to pay for those collect
Just a second.
calls.
He called collect, and the operator said, I have Mr. Hager on the phone, and you said, I'll accept the charges.
Not the first time.
I don't care if it's the first time or the 100th time. At some
Eventually,
point,
I took the call.
And what happened when you took the call?
He was upset and crying and promising me that he would quit using drugs and he would go to AA and never drink again. Please help me get out. My family won't help me. My sister won't bail me out. Only you can help me out.
So?
I hung up on him and I called my lawyer.
About what?
I said, my ex-boyfriend was arrested and he's asking me to bail him out. And my attorney said, well, that's a great idea, because then you can bring him to us and we can get a retainer. So bail him out, sign for his release.
You think I believe that? You think I believe what you just told me? You think Bird believes what you just told me? That you're calling your lawyer and you said, my ex-boyfriend who beat me up, who I moved from one county to another county to get away from, just called me up to bail him out of jail, because after he burglarized my house, assaulted me, chased me down the freeway, damaged my rental car, tried to steal my cell phone, after all of that, wants me to bail him out. And your lawyer said to you, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you do that and we can get a retainer from him and then we'll all be one happy family. So you went and bailed him out and put down with the bail bondsman how much?
I didn't put any monies down. I just signed for his release as my attorney told me to do so.
So they let him out because you promised to pay?
He promised.
So what are you suing him for bail for?
I have a promissory note that he promised to pay and he's never paid.
Well, what does that have to do with you? If you just said you're not obligated to pay the bail, what is the promise? You're suing on behalf of the bail bondsman?
The bail bondsman is suing me for the amount of $2,500 for
Show me that the bail bondsman is suing you. Well, they're not suing you. They said if this matter is not resolved, they're going to send this to a collection agency. Tell them to sue you. All right. Tell me this story about what happened, Miss Juergens, when you signed him out and took him to your lawyer. Tell me what happened.
My lawyers had him sign a retainer and they made $8,000 off of him.
Yes.
Then they called him and said, why haven't you paid that bail bond? It's going to collections. Pay it. And he promised.
Just a minute, why would you take him to your lawyer? This man who you fled from one county to another to get away from, who just burglarized your house, assaulted you in your home, battered your car, almost killed you on a freeway, why would you take him to your lawyer?
To get him out of my county of San Diego and put him back in Orange County and let my lawyers handle it.
How many lawyers are there in Orange County?
About 1 million.
Right. And according to you, we paid your lawyer $8,000. I guarantee you, another half dozen of the 1 million lawyers in Orange County would have taken the case for $8,000. So why you chose to take him to your lawyer, the whole story is so bizarre. And if the story is so bizarre and if it doesn't make sense, it didn't happen that way. All right, Mr. Hager, I've listened to the fairy tale on this side. You want to tell me your side of this fairy tale?
What really happened was she took off with my phone after coming to my hotel room.
Where was your hotel?
San Diego, Mission Bay.
What were you doing?
They're like getting ready to go to SeaWorld.
You were getting ready to go to SeaWorld?
Yeah.
Who were you going to SeaWorld with?
I was going to go to SeaWorld with my daughter.
Was your daughter with you?
No, she wasn't at the time.
Where does she live?
She lives down in Costa Mesa.
Listen, Mr. Hager.
Yeah.
Well, you're always going to get tripped up on a little detail.
Yeah.
Because they make up the story as they're going. Do you understand?
Oh, I'm not making it up.
Oh. What were you doing in a hotel room, and what was she doing in your hotel room while you're getting ready to take your daughter to see the sea lions?
My daughter wasn't with me at the time. She was in Oceanside visiting her cousins. Charlene came down there because she had to see me.
Just a second. How did she know you were there, sir?
She called me.
On your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And you told her, I'm here. Did you tell her before or after you arrived?
After I arrived, I believe.
And she came to your hotel?
Yeah.
What's the name of the hotel?
I think it was the Hilton.
Paid by credit card or cash?
Credit card, I believe.
And you registered there in your own name?
Yes, yes.
Why do you hesitate?
Well, I have trouble with remembering details. Yes.
Well, I mean, it would be a simple thing. Somebody said, did you register there in your own name? I'd say, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, Do you know what I'm saying, Mr.
Yeah,
Hager?
I know what you're saying, yeah.
It's the little details that are going to trip you up if I don't get an accurate story from you.
Okay.
Or as close to accurate in this fantasy that I want to get.
All right.
So she came to your hotel?
Yes.
For what purpose?
To talk.
About what?
About a relationship, and also to try and talk me into like backing off on some of the accusations and charges I had against her.
For what?
Battery, robbery, all kinds of stuff.
Were there criminal charges pending against her at the time?
Yes.
Is that true, Ms. Juergens?
1, assault. Robbery is false.
So at the time you went to his hotel, there was a current criminal action pending against you?
Yes.
Well, at least I got you in his hotel. That's different from the bathroom in your house. Now, according to you, she left your hotel with your cell phone, is that right?
That's correct.
And that's why you followed her on the freeway.
Yes.
Did you pay the bail bondsman, sir?
Yes, I paid him everything up to about $2,500.
Did you pay her lawyer any money?
Yeah, and quite a lot of money. In fact, I paid her bill for the lawyer too.
You did?
Oh yeah, I have the receipt right here.
How much did you pay her lawyer?
$1,250 on one count, and then I paid $2,500 on another count.
What made you so magnanimous?
Well, you know, she kept telling me that we could work things out and she loved me and stuff like that.
Were those criminal charges subsequently dropped, Miss Juergens?
No, they weren't.
Did that case go to trial?
It did not. I changed my not guilty plea.
To a guilty plea?
Yeah, after 11 months.
What was your sentence?
Time served.
How long had you been incarcerated?
48 days.
What was the nature of the assault that you pled guilty to?
He alleged that I scratched him and assaulted him and battered him.
Is that right, Mr. Hager?
Yeah, I have the report with the 5 stitches that I had, if you'd like to see that.
I would. So I am correct in the time sequence in this case.
Right.
Your allegations, Ms. Juergens, that he assaulted you after he crawled through the bathroom window, and that's when you took off down the freeway. That police report was made after you were under indictment for assault. Is that right?
I was fighting my alleged charge.
Correct. Well, the alleged charge. It's no longer an alleged charge. It's a conviction.
Now it is.
How come you didn't tell me you were in his hotel room until I got the information a different way?
You didn't ask, and he asked me to go. He invited me.
This is the same man, Miss Juergens, who you fled from one county to another to escape. You went to his hotel room alone? Goodbye, Miss Juergens. I am totally disinterested in your lawsuit. You have no case. That's all. Goodbye.
Aaron Height is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old Krista Kwalczyk, for the cost of a trip to Cancun, the return of an engagement ring, and the return of a dog.
Ah, Mr. Height, you and the defendant dated, according to you, contemplating marriage. You at some point gave her a ring that you say is an engagement ring. You want that back. Things didn't work out. You also claim that after an argument, because the two of you were living together, the defendant left and took a dog that you had, at least in part, contributed to purchasing. You want that money back, and you want the cost of a non-refundable airplane ticket that you put on your credit card, her non-refundable ticket for a trip that the two of you were supposed to take. The defendant says the ring was a gift, the dog is hers, and she paid for the last trip that you took together, so this trip, well, you're going to have to pay for that because she paid for the last one. All right, let's take care of the ring first. That's the easiest. Can I see it, please? Well, that certainly looks like an engagement ring to me. You know, that comes under the old category, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You know?
Yes.
When did you purchase the ring, sir?
Actually, I purchased the ring in 2004, Your Honor.
For her?
No, Your Honor. I didn't know her back in 2004.
You mean just in case you met somebody?
No, I was in a relationship before, but I never gave that ring to another girl. I just had it, and I couldn't return it back then. So it never was on another girl's finger. But I did have it, Your Honor.
Okay. By the way, did you ever tell her that you've had this ring since 2004?
I didn't mention that, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Okay. Me and the defendant, we broke up on January 8th. And when she took possession of that ring was February 6th. She invited me, because we had that dog together. It was her dog. His name's Monty. So she invited me to go and see how the dog was progressing, see how big he got. It was a dog school. So it was a dog school behind a pet store. So I went. And during our relationship, Krista was always like, if you ask me to marry you, the answer is yes. She would get mad when I said I would want to wait at least a year. So there was no like big surprise, like she would say no if I asked her to marry her or anything.
Okay, so you went to the dog school.
Okay. We went
with Monty.
And she didn't believe that I had an engagement ring. So I just brought it with me to show her. So I showed her.
So you were trying to get back together again?
Well, I did care about her, but I did not propose to her in the back of a pet store at a dog school. I was just showing her the ring like I had it, and I really cared about you, and take a look, you know? She put it on her finger. Take a look, this is how much I care. Take a look. So she put it on her finger, she loved it, it's gorgeous. I said, it's not a good idea, I'm not giving it to you, it's not a gift, there's no way I'm giving you a $5,200 ring.
You didn't even clean it.
Mm-hmm.
I never wore it.
You didn't even clean it. It's dirty.
It's got clear evidence that it's been worn before. There are deep scratches into it as if it had been worn.
It was never worn, Your Honor.
I never once...
Well, she did put it on because she put it on her finger that day and got in her car.
Doesn't make any difference. Go ahead. So you let her try it on.
I let her try it on, and I asked for it back. She was like, no, can I hold on to it? Her thing was, can I hold on to it? All right, that was on February 6th. On the 9th, I ended up still going on that Cancun trip with one of my friends.
So you went?
I went.
With your friend?
With my friend, right.
Okay, so we've taken care of the plane ticket.
No, the plane ticket, that's not transferable.
You still have that plane?
She could have it. It's hers. It's $368 that I'm asking for, and she can have the credit, you know.
Who paid for the last trip you took?
She did, Your Honor.
$2,400.
That sounds like even Stephen.
I paid for a lot of other gifts. For most of our relationship, like...
Listen, let me ask you a question. You have absolutely no use for this ring.
It was a gift.
First of all, it's an engagement ring.
He never proposed to me, Your Honor.
I know he didn't. I also don't believe that he ever gave it to you. I believe him. I believe him. And if I didn't believe him, I would still tell you, you have to give it back to him. Men don't like to give somebody something that's very expensive, like an engagement ring. And then, for whatever reason, I understand you moved out.
Which my mother helped
Your mother?
me. My mother.
Your mother came over to the house, according to him. Next thing you knew, you were gone. Give him back his ring, please, Bird. All right, the ring is yours. The trip you took with your friends, I hope you enjoyed. You pay for it. Let's get to the dog. And then I will leave you both in peace, and hopefully you can say, we've had enough. It's over. Move on. Now, when did you purchase Monty?
December 22nd, Your Honor.
And you were together at the time?
We were boyfriend-girlfriend, yes, Your Honor.
You were living together?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you put in $900 according to the papers for the dog?
According to him, but I did pay $1,200 cash for the dog. I have
And
the
how much
receipt.
did Mr. Height put into the dog?
He says...
Don't tell me what he says.
Nothing.
Nothing? He says he put in $300. Is that what you put in?
Your Honor, I did.
I'd like to see the bill of sale for the dog.
This is down in Willington, Connecticut, is where we purchased the dog. This is from an ATM machine showing
I'd
in
like to
Willington,
see it, please.
Connecticut. I took out $300 on the 22nd. And she paid with a check $900 and my $300 in cash.
I paid cash, $1,200.
Show me where you took it out of a bank, the $1,200.
Your Honor, I'm a bartender, and all of my tips are in cash. So if he put in the $300 like he said,
There's no question he
should have signed the bill of sale.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. There's no question he put in $300. That doesn't necessarily mean it's his dog. What else did you buy for Christmas?
The dog was not a Christmas present.
I'm just asking you. I'm asking you what you bought her for Christmas.
Oh, what I bought her for Christmas? Tickets to a Broadway show in New York in a hotel room.
Didn't you go with her?
No.
You mean she was going to go alone to the hotel, and she was going to go alone to the Broadway show?
Well, we broke up. The show was in February, Your Honor.
Listen to me. When you got tickets to the Broadway show, I assume you got 2 tickets.
Yes, Your Honor.
For the 2 of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the plan was for the 2 of you to go to a hotel?
Yes, Your Honor.
What else did you get for her?
The cage for the dog was like $170 I bought her. What else did I get her for Christmas? That's a good question. Oh, I got her tickets for Six Flags. I bought her a coat, like, I don't know, like $150 coat.
What'd she buy you?
Well, actually, she brought me Chris Rock tickets down at Mohegan Sun, which she took. She never gave to me. What else did she give me? I can't really remember. She didn't give me as near...
Who went to the Broadway show?
I didn't go. I don't know if she went.
Did you go? No? Okay, listen. Forget the dog. You got your ring back?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you a happy person?
Yes, but I would
Perfect. Be happy. Be happy. It's over. You got your ring back. You've held on to the ring 4 years.
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Maybe it's not good luck.
No.
Did you
I'm
ever
going to
think
sell
of
it.
that? It's over. Finished. Thank you. Goodbye.
Brenda Jones says ex-boyfriend Thomas Moses Jr. owes for bail money and a loan to retain an attorney. Brenda claims Thomas lied about being married.
Miss Jones, you and Mr. Moses were in a relationship for a brief period of time, and according to your complaint, you made 2 loans to him.
That's correct.
One involved some criminal restitution, and the other was a loan for an attorney so that he could start divorce proceedings. I assume that this is your wife.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are currently reconciled with your wife. And according to you, Miss Jones did not make loans to you. These were acts of generosity on her part, and there was no expectation that she was going to be repaid. Is that right, Mr. Moses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you leave your wife?
I left my wife November 22nd,
2005. 04.
04.
But I would watch myself on the 22nd of November. And when did you meet Miss Jones?
Met Miss Jones January the 2nd.
January the 3rd.
Where?
I actually met her off the chat line.
So you started to communicate with each other on the internet?
Yes, ma'am.
That is not true.
Where did you meet?
My car was broke down when I was coming out of the tanning bed at a strip mall, and he was coming out of a little place called Deals. And I asked him would he give me a boost. He said, yes, I don't have jumper cables. I said, I do. And he asked me, was I married? I said, no. Are you married? He said, no. And it kind of
So that's how you met?
That's how we met.
And then you started to communicate on the internet?
No, we started communicating on the telephone.
Is that right?
Telephone come from the chat line, yes. And we actually met. That was our meeting place at Deal's parking lot.
Did you first meet her at Deal's parking lot, Mr. Moses, when she asked you for a jumper?
I met her there, but I talked to her on the chat line.
Before?
Before.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you start speaking to her on the chat line?
Probably December 30th.
That is not true.
So you're telling me 3 days later you met her at Deal's?
That's when she wanted to meet.
Right, it's interesting. Okay. Now, when was the first time, Miss Jones, you gave him money?
It was February the 23rd. I got a phone call in the middle of the night from he and his daughter on a two-way call stating he'd been arrested falsely for beating his wife up and wanted to know, could I come and bond him out?
Now, you had been dating between the 3rd of January and February 23rd?
Yes.
How much did he need to bail him out?
Initially, it was $10,000, so I'd need $1,000. So I went to the bank and drew the money out. And when I got to the bondsman, they cut him some type of deal, and it was $837.
Well, you have to tell me about the conversation that you had. What did he say to you, and what did you say to him?
On that particular night at midnight, he asked if I indeed would come and bail him out. He would be able to pay me that Friday. I believe that was on a Sunday. And he makes pretty good money, and, you know, so I knew he could afford to give the whole $837 or a whole $1,000. I thought it was going to be $1,000 at that point.
Did he say, I'll give you the money on Friday?
Friday, yes.
Did he give you the money on Friday?
He said he was having some financial problem, gave me $400.
Did you give her $400, Mr. Moses?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the $400 for?
It's for getting me out of jail.
So you acknowledge that this was a loan?
It wasn't a loan. I just told her I would give her $400 back. I mean, I appreciate it. It was my appreciation to her for getting me out. I mean, I just met her, you know, and it was nice of her to get me out of jail.
Just a second. When did you give her the $400?
That Friday, the following Friday.
Just a second. So you called her from jail and you said, could you bond me out? You didn't say anything to her about giving you back money on Friday?
No, ma'am.
It just happens to be that on that Friday you gave her $400.
Yeah, out of generosity, because she was generous enough to get me out of jail, so I told her I'd give her what I could Friday, and I could give her $400.
Oh, now your story's changed, Mr. Moses.
No.
Now you said that you told her you'd give her what you could on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, that's different from not saying anything to saying, I told her I'd give her what I could. And what you could give her on Friday was $400. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the next time Mr. Moses needed money?
It was about 4 weeks later. He told me he had a...
Just a minute. Between that Friday and 4 weeks later, you mean he didn't give you any more money?
He gave me $150, $50 increments.
When?
Actually, the first payment was $517.
No. Just answer my questions. Now you say that he gave you money in $50 increments, another $150. Was that over the next 4 weeks?
No. There was no money exchanged between the initial loan and the second loan.
That's what I want to know. So tell me what happened 4 weeks later.
Well, when I met him, he told me he was not married, okay? Or make that clear. Then I find out that he's got a lawyer that he's dealing with this no count, okay? So he says he's not helping him. He's not helping him to get his kids. His wife is not taking care of the children. He needed his kids desperately. And he knew I had some money saved up, okay? That's my first probably major mistake. And he asked me if I would help him get this new lawyer, put the $1,000 retainer fee. Once his divorce was final, his kids was in his home and they were stable. His financial situation was stabilized. Everything would be on target and he would be able to...
The check's in the mail.
Right.
So you gave him $1,000?
I wrote the $1,000 to the lawyer.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am. She had pushed me into divorcing my...
Well, explain that to me. How did she do that?
Well, first of all, I never lied to you about being married. I told her I was married and had 4 children, and I was going to get a divorce. That was my goal, to get a divorce.
You were going to get a divorce because your wife was a very nice person?
I was going to get a divorce because we had some marital problems.
Well, some marital problems doesn't always talk about divorce, Mr. Moses. Did you actually come here thinking that you were going to run circles in this courtroom?
No, ma'am.
So you told Miss Jones that your wife wasn't caring for the children?
I did.
That you needed to get custody of your children?
I did. I needed them.
Because your children were at risk with your wife because she wasn't taking care of them?
My mother was watching them, actually, at my mother's house.
No, they were running back.
My mother was watching them at...
Were they watching them because your wife has problems?
She was watching them because my wife was, yeah, she had problems.
Put your hand down. What kind of problems did your wife have?
She just had like...
No, look at my face.
Oh.
What kind of problems did your wife have, Mr. Moses?
She had boyfriend problems, I mean...
Drug.
Did you tell the plaintiff that your wife had a drug problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Karnak. Now, you told Miss Jones that your wife couldn't take care of your children because she was abusing drugs and she had boyfriends, and you needed to get custody of your children.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how does that translate, Mr. Moses, into she was pushing me to get a divorce from my wife?
Because she kept on me and telling me that she loved me and she wanted me to get divorced from my wife, and she would help me get my children and we could live together, and she kept forcing me to get a divorce.
Forcing you?
I didn't want a divorce.
What did you want? What did you want?
I wasn't clear about what I wanted at the time.
I have a feeling, how old are you?
I'm 44.
That is persistent state of your mind.
Absolutely.
Unclear.
Okay.
Now, you went back to your wife when, sir?
Went back to my wife on, I don't know.
Give me a month.
July the 22nd, just when I got a phone call from the wife.
7/22. Now, when you went back to your wife, sir, did your wife enter a drug rehabilitation program?
No, ma'am.
Then she's still using drugs.
No, ma'am.
Well, if one of the reasons you were having marital difficulties, sir, is because your wife was a drug abuser, and if she didn't enter a program, then she's still using drugs, unless you were lying to the plaintiff when you told her that your wife was a drug abuser. So which one is it? Were you lying to the plaintiff, or was your wife still abusing drugs?
She is not abusing drugs now. She's changed, or for whatever reason, I guess.
Miraculously abusing, sir?
Just marijuana and stuff.
No, what kind of stuff? Marijuana and what kind of stuff?
And hydrocodone.
And what?
Hydrocodone.
What is that?
Lortabs.
Lortab.
What is that?
He told me some type of nerve pill.
It's a pain pill because she has lupus and she has a bunch of stuff wrong with her.
So she's not taking those pills anymore? She's not using marijuana anymore? Is that what you're telling me?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
So how come you decided to go home, sir?
For my kids, because things wasn't happening fast enough for me.
So you're home taking care of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you gave her $50 increments 3 times after the loan to the lawyer. What was that for?
It was for the jail.
It was for the jail?
Mm-hmm. For get me out of jail.
So you were just being a nice guy then? That wasn't a loan?
There was never a loan. I never asked Miss Jones to get me out of jail.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You asked her to get you out of jail because otherwise she wouldn't have known that you were in jail, sir.
No, my daughter called her.
How old is your daughter?
18.
How did your daughter find out you were in jail?
I called. I called my house because my house...
You called your house and you spoke to your daughter?
Mm-hmm.
And did you say to your daughter, call Miss Jones?
No, I did not.
Baloney!
I did not.
Listen, what's your first name?
Tommy. Thomas.
Slick Tommy, let me explain something to you. You don't take advantage of people and then just walk away. You clean up after your mess. You made a mess, you clean up after it.
Mm-hmm.
Bad enough that you involved this woman in your muddled mind, your 44-year-old bouillabaisse that you got going up there. But to take her money is unconscionable, sir. Unconscionable. You owe her $1,287. That's the remainder on the bail and the $1,000 for the lawyer that you, for some reason, decided that you didn't need because your children needed you, which is a very nice thing. You decided to go back to your wife for your children's sake. Very nice. I would suggest to you that it doesn't serve your children well if your wife is abusing drugs to live with her. And if your wife isn't abusing drugs, then you told this lady a fib. Because unless somebody gets into a program, if they are drug abusers, they don't stop. Goodbye. $1,287 is what you owe her.
Jenny Rose says ex-roommate Sheena Mashoud owes for the return of rent and a security deposit. Jenny also claims Sheena slandered her via the internet.
Miss Rose, you rented a room from the defendant, and according to your complaint, you were forced to move out early.
Yes.
You want prorated rent.
Yes.
You certainly want your security deposit back. And you want compensation for what you say were very nasty things that the defendant posted about you on the internet.
That's correct.
The defendant says that you chose to move out. You don't get compensated for choosing to leave before the end of the 30 days. That your cat did some damage to the rug, so you don't get your security back. And she acknowledges she wrote nasty things about you on the internet, but she said everything she wrote about you was the truth, and the truth is a perfect defense.
True.
When did you move into this room, Ms. Rose?
On May 1st. On April 22nd, I answered an ad.
Do you recall what it said?
It said that I was going to be a roommate, that it was $400 for the rent, that she had 3 cats, and 1 more would be great. And
no, just a second. That's not what the ad said.
Yes, it did. It said she had 3 cats and 1 more would be great.
Oh, that's what the ad said?
Yes.
It must be a very long ad. Where was it?
Craigslist.com.
.org. .org. Correction. Tell me what happened when you went and looked in the house.
It was 11 o'clock at night. She said that it was dirty, but she would clean it, and that the hot water in the sink was broken, the pipe, but she would fix it before I moved in, and the toilet that I was renting out with the bathroom was broken as well, but that would be fixed as well.
How many rooms did you look at?
3 different rooms, and this is the one that I chose.
This is the one that had a broken sink, a broken toilet, and was filthy. Is the one that you chose, Miss Rose?
Actually, it was the rent. It was cheaper than normal. Others were asking for $650, so I figured I was only going to be here till the summer. It should not be an issue.
Was the toilet fixed?
No, the toilet was never fixed, and neither was the hot water, which I had to eat out because I couldn't wash dishes. There were maggots in the sink. There were roaches.
Who else lived in the house?
It was supposed to be just myself and Sheena, and she brought her crackhead mother in, who has no teeth and has tattoos everywhere, who she failed to mention was an ex-convict who had been in jail for 12 years for a violent crime. Not only that, but...
Just a second. When you moved in May 1st, was her mother there?
No, her mother was not there.
When did her mother move in?
Her mother started coming by in the middle of May and started hanging out, bringing her other crackhead friends who had no teeth.
I'm a dentist's daughter. Let's not talk about the teeth. Let's talk about the drugs.
Okay.
What makes you think that she was using crack?
Because I came home the night before I moved out, and her friend were smoking crack in the living room.
That would give me a clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your mother incarcerated for, Miss Mashoud?
I believe it was theft, and she violated her parole several times.
She violated her parole because of her drug use?
No, it had to do with the fact that she wasn't seeing her probation officer like she was supposed to when she was released early.
Listen, if you're released early and you want to stay out of jail, unless you're involved with drugs, you usually see your probation officer.
Well, actually, the problem was that she moved back to Colorado without asking her probation officer, and she stayed out there for 3 years.
Well, that would be a problem.
Yes, obviously, as the rule was that she was supposed to keep in contact.
How long was she incarcerated?
I'm not sure. I never lived with my mom as a child, so.
When was she released from prison?
At least 5 years ago.
How come she started to come to your house?
Because I previously, before she had ever moved in, had paid my mom to come to my house to clean my apartment because I work 18-hour days. I have 2 different jobs. I work a bar job at night, and during the day I'm a special effects makeup artist. I work very hard, and I don't have time to spend, even if it is 4 hours that I get to sleep, to spend cleaning up my apartment.
You mean there's nobody else that could clean your apartment other than your mother?
Well, I don't trust anybody else to come into my apartment because I have many things that are worth a lot of money.
So what you're telling me is you trust your mother?
Yes, I do.
The mother who she says, and I believe her,
yes,
invited somebody into your home and they were smoking dope in your house.
Nobody else other than my mom was invited into my home.
Well, she did. Bring somebody else into your home.
I had never seen the person.
Well, I'm telling you, she did. She did, so your judgment wasn't very good. In choosing your mother, listen to me, your judgment wasn't very good in choosing your mother to clean your house.
I believe my judgment was just fine. Aside from the fact that she had been incarcerated before, it doesn't mean that she would do anything like that again.
Well,
It was
but
a
she
petty
brought
problem.
somebody,
I
listen
love
to
my
me.
mother.
She brought somebody into your house and they were smoking
There's
dope
no
in
proof
your
of
house.
I'm glad you believe her, but I don't know that that's true. I know that my mom has not been on drugs for many years. I know that she does have permanent psychosis because of doing drugs for many years, and that is true. But she's not a current drug user, otherwise I wouldn't bring her into my house because I wouldn't trust her around my stuff personally.
Ms. Michoud, that's your problem. You want to have
it is.
this unabiding faith in your mother, with whom you say you never resided when you were growing up, who was incarcerated most of that time. That's up to you. I absolutely, 100% believe her when she says that she came home the day before she moved out and your mother was in the house smoking dope, which, as far as I'm concerned, gives her the right to leave in the middle of the month. Well, I'm speaking. What day of the month did you move out?
It was the 18th.
So you want prorated rent for the 12 days that you weren't there?
That's correct.
Okay, and how much does that come to?
$146.50.
My mother had not moved in at that point. She was a guest of mine.
Excuse me?
Shh. Listen to me. She doesn't listen to me very carefully, Miss Michoud. She doesn't. Listen, try to listen. I know you've got a lot going on in your hair and your face, everything else, but try to pay attention. She doesn't have to live in your house. You have invited a guest into your home, your mother, who was involved in behavior that I believe could have endangered someone else who was living in the house. If the police had come to your house and found your mother and someone else in possession of crack cocaine in your house, everyone in the house would have been involved in that drug sweep. So she was very smart to move out. And since you have acknowledged that you invited your mother into the house for the purposes of cleaning, you can't say she had no right to move. She did have a right to move. And since you invited this problem into your house, you have to compensate her for the 12 days in rent that she did not have use and enjoyment of her room. Well, that's my ruling. You may not like it. That's why you go to
her boyfriend.
That's
is a
why
speed addict,
I'm speaking.
and he's in my and he's
listen
staying
to
in
me.
my house.
Listen to me very
For the
carefully.
whole time she was there.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. I don't know where else you work or what else you do to enhance your senses, but in my courtroom, I speak. I listen.
Obviously, you don't listen very well.
No, I'm listening. You're not hearing what I'm saying because you don't like the answer. How much is your security?
$200. I have a copy of the sublease as well.
Can I see it, please?
And I have a copy of the letter she told me to vacate immediately.
Okay.
She wanted me to pay for her mother's rent for the next month.
Listen. Did you write this letter? There will be a $500 rent increase for your bedroom and private bathroom starting July 1st. Did you write this?
Yes, that's what
All right, good.
Hutchinson told me to do.
$146.50 and $200 for your security deposit. Do you have any pictures of the ruined rug that was allegedly caused by her cats?
No, but
Good. Now I would like to see what was written on the internet.
This is a networking site that my coworkers, my supervisors and boss, as well as my family and friends read. I was contacted by one of my coworkers.
Well, the one thing I do know for sure, Miss Michoud, is that you have a filthy mouth.
Thank you.
And I assume that you work in this town?
Yes, I do.
Good. I certainly hope that enough people, since we do have a reasonable audience in this town, watch this and know that I personally am offended that a woman would use the kind of vulgarities that you do written. I don't think, quite frankly, Miss Rose, that any fair-minded, reasonable person would accept anything that you wrote here as true.
Oh, of course not.
Because she clearly is a demented, sick girl. I don't know how she finds work in this town, but clearly there are a lot of demented, sick people who want demented, sick employees. That's the problem here sometimes. I can't judge that. Clearly, this is miserable. I'm not going to ask her how she's going to establish to my satisfaction that you committed the kinds of sex acts that she attributes to you, because certainly you don't want that, and I wouldn't, because it's really unseemly. Suffice, I'm speaking! I'm speaking!
Am I going to speak at all this
Go speak outside. Somebody who wants to hear you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $346.50. Thank you.
Toodles.
20-year-old Catherine Gonzalez is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old exterminator Zachary Finney, for breaking their apartment lease and for a loan to have his teeth fixed.
So you two people, when you were under 20, decided to take up housekeeping together, according to what I read in your complaint, and you leased an apartment. At the time you leased this apartment together, were you working?
Yes, I was working.
And how much did you earn a week?
I got $9 an hour. I'd get like about $400 or $500 every 2 weeks.
Well, is it $400 every 2 weeks or $500 every 2 weeks?
The months differed, but I know in December when we moved in, I made $1,083.10 in December.
In December. Did you work overtime for Christmas during that time?
I worked a little bit more hours, but...
Okay. So let's say you made $500 every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay? And you, what kind of work were you doing?
I was a mover, and I made about, say, $350 every week.
So you made about $1,400
Yes, ma'am.
a month. And what kind of an apartment did you rent?
A one-bedroom,
How much was the rent?
$530.
When did you sign the lease?
We signed it in November, but it began December 1st, 2004.
And it was a 6-month lease?
It was a 1-year lease.
How long did you live there?
I lived there until June.
So you lived there for 6 months?
Yes.
And then you moved out?
Yes.
How long did you live there?
I lived there until September 30th of this year.
So you stayed on an extra 3 months?
I'd say almost 4.
Did you pay the rent for the 4 months that you lived there?
Yes.
They're coming after you for the 2 months rent that remains on the lease after he moved out?
Yes, 2 months. He didn't pay rent.
You want him to pay those 2 months?
Yes. And also, he had porcelain veneers put on before we moved into the apartment even, and he promised he would pay me back for those when we went to Mexico to get his porcelain veneers.
How long ago was that?
That was last fall. So
a year ago?
Yes, a year ago.
Forget about it. I'm not interested in something that happened a year ago. Then you moved in together, you pulled money. Did you have a joint bank account?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Get over it, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay. Now, why do you think that he should be responsible solely for the last 2 months' rent? You moved out in June.
He promised me he would stay there until the lease was over. I told him, he didn't want to live with his parents. I said, you don't have to worry. I won't ever make you live back with your parents. As long as you stay there, you can stay there. I trust you. And he promised that he would stay there until the lease was up.
Well, didn't you promise him you were going to stay there until the lease was up when you signed the lease with him?
Yes, but until he asked me to leave, then...
He asked you to leave, why?
There was a lot of reasons. I could have left before. I stayed there to help him pay rent, and really that was the only thing I was staying for towards the end. And the moment he told me that I could leave, I was happy. He said, please leave, and I said, okay.
Because he was making everybody's life miserable.
Yes. He was...
Well, but I still don't get your position that it was okay for you to leave and stick him with the rent, but it's not okay for him to leave and stick you with the rent, or at least half of it.
I would have stayed there, but he told me that I could leave.
Miss Gonzalez, stop being a baby. Two 20-year-olds, if they're not getting along, don't stay with each other. That's why police come to houses, because people get hot-tempered and nasty stuff that goes on in people's homes when they're not getting along. So you left.
Yeah.
And he paid the rent.
Yeah, he paid the rent.
So,
and he should have continued to pay it until December. Also,
you should have continued to pay it after you left in June. Where did you go?
I went to live with my dad. And
well, if you went to live with your dad, then you had plenty of money. You should have given him
no,
half
I did
the
not
rent.
have plenty of money. I had bills.
Listen to me. You should have given him half the rent. Said, I'm leaving. Too bad it didn't work out. We shouldn't live together. I'll give you half the rent.
I have a piece of paper, though, that says he owes me $800 per month for rent and expenses, regardless of whether we're living. It doesn't say, not if Zach doesn't live there. It doesn't say any conditions on it. And so that was my guarantee that he would stay there and pay the rent, because he signed a piece of paper saying that he would.
Let me see it. I, Zachary Finney, will give $800 a month for rent or other reasons to Catherine Gonzalez for a period of 1 year from December 1st, 04 to December 1st, 05. What does that mean, sir?
To get the apartment that we moved into, I had a lease that I had prior to living there with my roommates. I had an apartment with them. I moved out, and my other roommate was supposed to take that over. He left, and that went on my credit, so I couldn't get approved. The reason I did that is the apartments asked me to do it so we could get approved to move in there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to move in there.
So this wasn't for her.
It was to get us approved to live there.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
All right, give this back to her. All right, now why are they just going after you for the last 2 months of this rent, Ms. Gonzalez?
Because my name was on the lease.
So he's not even liable on the lease?
No, but this piece of paper was my guarantee that he would not...
That wasn't your guarantee. That's not the reason it was signed. So the rent is $530 a month?
Yes.
Did you give them notice you were moving out, sir?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I've been paying the rent ever since she moved out. In September, we had a hurricane hit Louisiana, Katrina, and a hurricane that was going to hit Houston, Rita. Well, I'm an exterminator, and my customers started canceling, and I work off commission. If I don't work, I don't get paid. And I was out of work probably almost 2 weeks, I would say. I asked her for help, and she kept giving me a runaround about why she couldn't help me, so I just left. I wasn't going to stay there.
I gotcha.
Okay.
Well, in any event, you did have an agreement, and your agreement was each of you would pay half the rent. Is that your agreement when you moved in? And if there were 2 months left remaining on the lease, that means that each of you would be responsible for $530. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, you think it's fair, Mr. Finney, that you pay $530?
No, I don't.
Well, it is. It is, sir. You paid for the 4 months rent in the apartment, but you lived in the apartment for 4 months.
Yes.
And from what I gather from Ms. Gonzalez, it was by mutual understanding that you left. She wasn't happy there. You weren't happy with her there. She was more than happy to leave. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I think it's reasonable that each of you is responsible for the last 2 months that remain on this lease. And next time you decide to set up housekeeping with somebody, you better make sure it's somebody that's going to either stick it out with you, or if they're not going to stick it out with you, then you can afford to pay the rent by yourself. Do you understand? Yes. It's not his responsibility to pay this entire amount, nor is it yours. Anyway, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $530. That's all.
22-year-old Ted Boyer is suing his ex-roommate, 21-year-old Chris Figlewitz, for vandalizing his property, the return of a security deposit, and an assault.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 321 on the calendar in the matter of Boyer versus Figlewitz. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Mr. Boyer, how long were you and the defendant roommates?
For approximately 6 months.
Were you going to school?
Yes.
What school?
Golden West College.
What were you studying?
Graphic design.
And you?
I go to Musicians Institute.
Were you friends before you moved in together?
Yes, ma'am.
Quick study. This is your complaint, Mr. Boyer, that this idiot decided to play a little prank on you and sprayed your room with urine, destroying your mattress and your computer. Now, Mr. Figlewitz says it was just a little urine, and it could not possibly have destroyed your mattress because he just got it on the edge of the comforter.
Yep. Yes, Judge Judith.
And that it certainly did not go on the computer. In addition, on the same day, he assaulted you, and you were injured. You have photographs to show me.
Yes, ma'am.
And in addition to that, after you, because immediately after this you moved out, you never got your security deposit back. Now, the defendant says he never assaulted you, and you didn't get your security deposit back because you didn't come and clean up the apartment, right?
Yes, that's true, and also he didn't pay all his bills either.
I don't have a counterclaim. Okay, when did you move in?
August 2004.
And when was this incident with the urine?
Late February.
Tell me what happened.
It's kind of a funny story. I came home from work one night, and they were out partying, and there was probably like 4 or 5 people over, and it was a common occurrence at the house. There was always a lot of people over, and at that time, I was working and going to school, so it wasn't my main point of interest to be partying all the time. And I had just become fed up with it after a while. So I was staying at my girlfriend's house, Asia, for the last 3 months because of not only the pranks that were going on, plus the partying. So I decided I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to deal with this tonight. So I take a couple of DVDs over to Asia's house, and we're going to go watch them. I come back because I forgot the ones that we meant to watch, and find the defendant, Mr. Figlewitz, in my room coming out with a spray bottle and laughing.
I was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so obviously we're like, what are you doing in my room? That's inappropriate in the first place. And he just laughs and runs outside. And we're like, where are you going? What are you running outside? So we go outside, and he's obviously drunk at this point. So I began to ask him what he was doing. Ultimately, I get him to admit that he was spraying urine in my room out of a spray bottle. And
Just a second.
yes.
How did it get in the spray bottle?
You know, you use your imagination.
I don't want to use my imagination. I
I
want
went
you
in
to
the
tell
bathroom and filled it up.
how much of the spray bottle.
Maybe.
Show me how big the spray bottle was.
It was like this big. I maybe filled up that much.
And then did you put some water in it?
No.
So it was straight urine.
Yeah.
See, the reason I don't like to use my imagination is if you do something stupid, I like 10 million people to hear that you've done something stupid. That's my joy in life. When did this idea foment in your brain that I'm going to go into the bathroom and instead of urinating in the toilet, like most people do, I'm going to go to the bathroom and get a spray bottle, whatever was in the spray bottle, I'm going to dump out. And then I'm going to fill this up, and I want to know, when during the course of the evening did that idea foment in your brain?
It was pretty spontaneous.
It was spontaneous because you had had enough to drink to make it spontaneous?
No.
Were you annoyed at Mr. Boyer?
A little bit, but
Okay, so you were a little annoyed.
yeah.
What were you annoyed about, sir? You're never going to know where I'm going, so don't try to figure it out, sir. You think I'm going to zig, and I guarantee you I'm going to go the other way. So just try telling me the truth. You'll be a much happier person and much less embarrassed.
I mean, there was pranks on both parts. Like I found a can underneath my mattress between my box spring.
When was that?
A few days before.
Had you done that?
No.
How did you know it was him?
Because I had my other roommate and he told me it was, so
Maybe it was your other roommate trying to get off the hook.
could be. But
Could be,
I doubt
right?
it.
Okay. Why else were you mad at him?
I just felt unappreciated because I paid for everything. I furnished the whole place and spent like $5,000 on all new stuff, and he would always comment that my furniture was tacky or whatever, or my paintings were.
So first, he did a prank, you thought, on you, but really you were annoyed with him
Yeah.
because he didn't appreciate you enough. I appreciate you. Let me see pictures. I didn't hear about the assault yet.
After I basically caught him red-handed, we went outside and we were having an argument, and some of my friends were, or his friends, were intervening to make sure nothing physical started to happen. Obviously, I wasn't going to try to do anything. That's not my character. So he comes around and kicks me. We were standing on stairs, mind you, or he was standing 2 stairs above me, kicks me, and I stumbled down, knocked my hand on a beer bottle. It broke and shattered in my arm.
That's untrue.
And I also have a police report.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
So you got some scratches on your arms, no stitches, is that right?
No stitches.
Okay.
I wasn't able to go to work the next day. I wait tables, or I did wait tables at the time, so it's obviously inappropriate to have open wounds.
Miss Asia, step up, please. I want you to tell me what you observed outside.
Okay. Chris went out of the house after we approached him about the situation. We were upset about it because that's disgusting. I sleep there too. I was standing right there on top of the stairs. Ted was on the stairs as well. His friends started getting between the two of them. Then finally something was said and Chris kicked Ted, and then Ted went down the stairs.
Where did he kick him?
He kicked him, probably hit him about your waist or hip.
Oh, in the stomach.
With his foot?
With his foot,
Yeah.
because that's where he could reach him. Ted flew forward and then hit his arm on the wall where the beer bottle was.
Go ahead.
That's not how it really happened. I ran out, I went in the bathroom, and then I walked outside, and then she was, saying, like, Ted's twice my size, he's gonna kick my, excuse me. Then he was angry, and he came at me, and in defending myself, I pushed him away with my foot, and he scraped his arm on the stucco wall.
That's not true, Your Honor.
I didn't have any glass in it or anything. I guess he knocked over a beer bottle, but there was no glass in his arm or anything like that.
I heard the whole thing too, Your Honor.
Well, I'd like you to stand up and tell me your name.
I'm Katie Carlson, and I was in the room when he sprayed the urine.
What were you doing in the room?
Laughing.
Well, that's stupid.
I know, it was stupid.
How drunk were you?
I wasn't drunk at all. And Chris had probably had like 2 beers. He wasn't drunk either.
You mean he did this act of stupidity sober?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was in the room and...
I'm just interested in what happened outside.
When Ted walked in, I had been in the room with Chris and I walked out.
Listen to me very carefully, my dear.
Okay.
Get out to the stairs.
So I heard Ted and Asia both just really violently harassing Chris. They were both saying that Ted's twice your size, he's gonna kick your, and Chris was just totally like, you know, I'm sorry, I admit it, I'm sorry. And Ted came up the stairs at Chris. Chris put his foot out, defended him.
Just a second, stop. Were you outside or did you hear this?
I did not see the fight.
So don't tell me what you saw if you didn't see anything.
I heard them yelling and harassing him, and I heard Chris admitting fault, apologizing, and he was making such below-the-belt comments.
Just listen to me.
Right.
Did you see anything?
No.
Then you may sit down.
Okay.
What? You know, sometimes some of these cases that we do, it makes me not want to buy government bonds. What happened to your computer?
Well, after the whole occurrence,
What happened to your computer?
it didn't work.
Had it worked before?
Yes.
Untrue. That's untrue.
You got a lot of things that are untrue.
We only had one computer hooked up to the internet because his didn't work, and he used my roommate's computer all the time because his computer never worked.
Does that sound right?
I didn't have
Don't play.
I didn't have internet on my computer.
Okay, but the computer
But the
itself
computer itself didn't work.
Do you have the bill to fix the computer?
Yeah, well, I threw that computer away simply because the urine stench was on it. It was disgusting, and I bought a new computer. I don't expect to get the full amount for my new computer. I just want to be compensated for, you know, what the old computer was worth.
Well, what was it worth?
I was waiting for you to judge on that.
I don't even know how to turn on a computer. I have no idea what your old computer cost. I have no idea of what its value was. And you don't come into court asking the judge to figure out what that is. You have some sort of proof for me to look at.
Yes,
Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing Mr. Figlewitz for $5,000.
Yes.
Okay, how much was your deposit?
$733.
All right, so that you're going to get back from him because he had a good reason to move out because Mr. Figlewitz and his friends, including this young lady, were idiots. Okay?
The check was never paid to me.
I don't care. It's your fault that he finally left. Then he's going to pay you $1,000 for the fall and the scraped arm because even though you didn't have glass in your arm, it's something that you don't have to tolerate. And I absolutely believe, Miss Asia over here, that your friends were in between the two of you. You were both hot, and that while the two of you kicked him and caused him to fall. And you cannot, sir, do that. The mattress. Did you buy a new mattress?
Yes.
How much did you spend on it?
$500.
You have a bill?
No, I don't. I have different like prices in mattresses, and I didn't buy a new one. I
flipped it over.
Well, no, I averaged all the prices out of new mattresses that I needed. I threw the old one away.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to me very carefully. Don't fall over your tongue. You look stupid. You don't want to look stupid, do you?
No.
You see, because I made him look stupid. Her a little bit. The only one who's coming out of this thing whole is Asia. I'd hold on to her if I were you. But don't lie to me. I don't like it.
Okay.
You threw away the mattress, and first you say you bought a new one, then you say you didn't buy one, but you averaged out the costs. Who are you living with now?
Asia.
Asia, do you have an apartment?
Yes, I do.
Have a one-bedroom apartment?
2-bedroom.
2 bedrooms. Who else lives there?
My girlfriend.
So you split the rent?
Yes, we do.
How many ways?
3.
1, 2, 3. And he shares your room?
Yes.
And you sleep on the floor?
No.
You sleep on a?
Bed.
Which has a?
Mattress.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,733. You have a mattress, Mr. Boyer. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
25-year-old Kay Seichow is suing her former friend, 21-year-old Jessica Silva, for loans for a tattoo and to pay her cell phone bill.
Miss Seichow, you and Miss Silva were friends, according to what I've read in this complaint and answer. And you claim that you made some loans to her. Miss Seichow denies that there were any loans. She said that the friendship fizzled out over some man, and that's why you're here. What man?
My son's father.
She started to hang around with your son's father?
She started going on dates with my son's father and neglected to tell me.
So you got angry?
Correct.
Are you still dating him?
We never dated. We were just friends.
They slept together.
Miss Seichow, when was the first loan that you allegedly made to her?
The first loan was for a tattoo on her back on March the 25th.
Tell me about it.
We wanted tattoos, so we went to the tattoo shop, and She picked one out and I picked one out, and we both wanted to get it done, but she didn't have the money. So she asked me if I can pay for it, and I said yeah, and then I'll just have her pay me back later. So we agreed, and then we both got our tattoos.
No.
She acknowledges in her answer that you paid for the tattoo, but she didn't say that that's how it happened.
No. What had happened was me, her, and another friend of ours, we all wanted tattoos. At that time that she wanted to get it, I wasn't working, I was going to school full time. And she said that she wanted to go get hers. I told her I didn't have the money at the time. And she knew that because I wasn't working, I have a son, I have other priorities, and that obviously was not one. She said that she'll put it on her credit card. I told her, fine, I'll pay half. I only have enough for half. She said, fine. I gave her $100.
You weren't working.
No.
You're going to school.
Correct.
You have a child.
Correct.
Child lives with you.
Yes.
You take care of the child.
By myself, yes.
Who supports the child?
I was getting help through the county for my son.
You were getting welfare.
Correct.
So you were getting welfare, and you laid out, if I believe you, $100 for a tattoo?
Correct. I had just got my taxes out in February. I got $6,000 back for taxes.
You got $6,000 and the government was still giving you money?
Yes.
This is some good country.
I would agree.
What else did you give her money for?
After we got the tattoo done, we went over to my place, and her phone was about to be shut off because she was late on her payment, and she asked me if I can also pay the $300 for her phone bill, and I agreed if she would pay me $50 each month in return, and she agreed, so I made the payment on my credit card, and I have the bill for that.
No. She wanted to go out of town. She did not have cash on her. I did. I had a phone bill that I needed to pay. I agreed to give her the cash if she put my phone bill on her credit card. I paid her. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how she still brought that up.
Okay, if she did not have $170 to pay for a tattoo, how
It
she have
wasn't the same
$300
day.
cash to give to me?
Show me the date of the tattoo.
March 25th.
And what was the date that you paid the phone bill?
March 25th.
Show me. No. You got the dates a little bit wrong. Tattoo time, which is where you had your tattoos, was the 26th of March, the day after you laid out the $300. So first, you paid for her phone, and then you paid for her tattoo. When did you have a falling out?
It was, I believe, about June when she found out who the father of the baby was, and then she introduced me to him, and then we...
Months later, between March and June, did she pay any money towards this alleged loan?
She paid just little here and little there, and the reason how she was able to pay me back about $100, $150 was because I was doing laundry at her house, and each month I was giving her $25 to do laundry. Instead of giving her the money, I would deduct it from what she owed me.
Do you keep records of this?
I kept records of it, but then each time when I write it down and then my 3x5 cards get filled, I throw it out and then I start a new one.
Madam, how am I supposed to guess how much she paid you back if you don't know?
I don't have the other paperwork. That's
Well,
why
how
I'm
am
only
I
getting
supposed
what
to
I
know?
have. I'm suing her for $500 and that's what's on there.
Well, that's maybe what's on here, but that's not what, even if it was a loan, that's not what she owes you. So there's another agenda here, because when you have a loan, you keep records. The next time you make a loan to somebody, you write it down.
Yeah.
And you keep records. And you give them a receipt if they pay you back. You keep the book, let them sign in the book. Otherwise, you come to me and what you're asking me to do is guess. Guess how much, if anything, she owes you. And I refuse to do that. Because I have a sense that this is more about this friendship and this guy than it is about anything else.
Well, she agreed to pay me back.
You don't know how much she owes you.
That's how much she actually owes me because I kept records. And that's
No, you
how much she
didn't.
owes
You're
me.
making it up as you're going along.
I wouldn't lie.
Put a period, move on. You loan somebody money, keep records, keep a ledger. Not, I don't have any records because I put it on a card and when it gets filled up, I throw it out. What's the point in keeping cards if it gets filled up and you throw it out? This is a precise place that we're at. We're at a court. So if you make a loan to somebody, it's your responsibility to keep records. It's not my responsibility. It's yours. You got it?
I understand.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Tracy and Steve Thompson are suing Tracy's son, 22-year-old Terry Frost, for a loan to buy a motorcycle, bail money, and impound fees.
Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, this young man is your son?
Correct, my son.
Your stepson?
Yes, ma'am.
I gather you feel he's been a little bit irresponsible.
A lot, yes.
You co-signed for a motorcycle for him a couple of years ago.
Correct.
He stopped making payments on the motorcycle.
Correct.
You took it into your custody. You have the motorcycle.
Correct. It was going to be repoed.
So you made all the payments on it so far?
Correct. When the bank called in regards to being repoed, our credit would be, in bad
jeopardy.
Exactly. And so I asked TJ, why aren't you making payments? So then he said at tax time he'd be able to make up what I've already paid and take over payments at that time.
But he didn't.
Correct.
Oh, so now you took a motorcycle back over a year ago.
04, correct. It's been sitting in my backyard.
Okay. Who has the title to it?
I actually got the title. I got it last month, and it's actually in his
Great.
name.
Great.
I have pictures of the bike, too, if you'd like to see it.
I assume you...
No, he actually didn't. He laid it down, and then it's like all dismantled, and apparently he blew out second gear. I don't know what all damage is to it, but...
Okay. Have him sign this over to them, please.
Your Honor, I really don't want the bike.
Then you shouldn't have signed for him. You shouldn't have taken it back over a year ago. When you took it back over a year ago, madam, what you should have done is gotten it, sued him, and come to court immediately. Now what you have to do is you have to sell it, and if there is any shortfall between that and what you owe on the bike, you may be able to sue him again. But right now, you have to take the bike and you have to sell it. Now let's talk about the bail. You bailed him out again over a year ago.
Yes.
Tell me how that came about.
He called one night. He had gotten a DUI, and I went down the next morning and bailed him out of jail.
When was that?
Late of 03.
In 2003?
Yes.
So 2 years ago.
Yes.
When did you co-sign for this bike?
In 2002.
And what was he driving in when he had a DUI?
Another car of his.
Did you call them?
Yes.
Did you tell them you were going to pay him back for the bail?
I just asked them to bail me out of jail.
And they did?
Yeah.
Were you working?
No.
How'd you expect them to pay you back?
Whenever he got a job.
There are loans, and then there are what we call great expectations. I would assume that when he called you and said, I'm in jail, come and get me out, you said, I'll be right down. Right?
Not quite, but
What did you say to him?
I reluctantly went down.
Right. Because you love her.
No, actually, I was not going to bail him out because that was his
that would have been
second
very
time
smart.
out.
I wouldn't have bailed him out.
Well, and then he felt sorry for me.
And this was in 2003. How old are your children?
2 and 8 months.
Oh, at least he might not have had one. He makes a lot of bad choices.
Correct.
Isn't that right, sir?
I guess, yeah.
What do you mean you guess? How old are you?
22.
You're 22 and you have 2 children.
Yep.
And how old is the mother of these children?
21.
And where does she live?
With her mom.
And where do you live?
With my aunt.
That sounds like a wonderful family. Now, you hesitated for a moment, Mr. Frost, when I said you've made some bad choices. Let me explain to you what you've done. In your short period of time, you've probably screwed up their credit. Are they rich people?
No.
Well, you stuck them with a motorcycle loan, right?
Right.
You stuck them with your bail, right? You stuck perfect strangers with taking care of 2 babies. That's your girlfriend's parents that she's living with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I guarantee you at their stage in life, they didn't anticipate taking care of 2 infants. Because not only did you make 1 mistake, but you couldn't keep your thing in your pants long enough not to make 2 mistakes. And you say to me, you have a question as to whether or not you made mistakes?
Yeah.
You have a question?
No.
So you could have avoided the whole thing by saying, I was a dumb kid.
Okay.
Dumb kids make dumb kid mistakes. They don't make babies.
Right.
Not 2. Who do you work for now? That's not a question that requires a lot of thought. You have 2 babies.
For Thompson Tile Maintenance.
You work full-time or part-time?
Part-time, and I go to school full-time.
Where do you go to school full-time?
Davenport University.
What kind of school?
I'm going for medical.
You want to be a doctor?
Not a doctor. A nurse.
Thank God. Do you see your grandchildren?
I do now. There was a period that with this loan, I didn't see him for about 7 months or something like that. And then he had his second baby, and I ended up going to the hospital and seeing the baby. And, he has since told me, him and his fiance are paying off her parents some money. And I think he owes me this money for this bike. I want him to pay me for this bike because I didn't want the bike
I think that morally he should do that.
Yes.
I just told you the legal result of what's going to happen here today.
Right.
If your son chooses to take the moral high road, that's up to him. You paying the maternal grandparents of your children some money?
I'm not. My fiance is.
For what?
I don't know, whatever they loaned her.
What do you spend your money on?
He gives
Baby
it to her.
stuff.
Well, that's good.
Right. No, I agree.
That's
She's
good.
a
That's
blessing.
fine.
She's a blessing.
That's fine. Somebody's got to support these babies.
She's a blessing. She keeps things straight.
So you give her money?
Yeah,
How much?
my whole check.
And what do you give to your aunt?
Nothing.
Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, put a lock on your checkbook.
Right.
Yes,
Done
ma'am.
did.
Good. Goodbye.
Robert McCullough is suing a former bandmate of his daughter's friend, Joseph Bongiorno, for the return of his musical equipment.
Mr. McCullough, it is your claim that the defendant has a piece of music equipment that belongs to you.
Actually, 2 pieces, Your Honor,
An amp and something else.
and a controller for it, yes.
The defendant acknowledges that he has the equipment. He said it's his. You gave it to him.
Okay.
That's your defense, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where is it?
It is currently in my possession at my home.
How long do you know the plaintiff?
Mr. McCullough, I met back in November of 2008.
How did you meet him?
I met him through Matthew Clooney, the plaintiff's witness. I'd been in the band with them since early, probably November of 2007.
So you met him through your bandmate?
Yes.
Now, tell me the circumstances of how this perfect stranger to you, someone with whom you had no relationship with, no business dealings with, correct? Gave you what he says, valuable pieces of equipment worth in excess of $1,000.
I went to his house with Matt Clooney, and he said Matt had previously called me saying that Mr. McCullough had an amplification system for me to use, and I went to
use an amp system for you to use.
It was given to me, yes.
No, he first said he had an amp system for you to use. Those are the words that you just said. Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
No, of course it's right. You want me to play it back for you?
No, thank
What you said was, Matt called you and said that Mr. McCullough had amp equipment for you to use. Then you quickly changed the word use for you to have. But the first word you used was use, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do?
I took the equipment from Mr. McCullough.
What was the agreement? What did he say to you and what did you say to him?
Well, when it was given to me or handed over to me, there was no agreement saying that I had to return the equipment.
Tell me what he said to you.
What he said to me was, you can have this equipment and use it, tell me what you think about it, and that was what was said.
Did you use it?
Yes.
Did you tell him what you thought about it?
No, I did not.
Then you have to give it back. He gave it to you to use, and he said to you, I want you to use this and tell me what you think about it. There's your contract, if I believe you. You never told him what you thought about the equipment.
No, I did not.
You got to give it back. Now. The fact that you're angry because you're no longer in the band doesn't mean you don't return the equipment. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Within 5 days, sir, you get your equipment back.
Your Honor, just one quick thing I'd like to interject, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would be the recourse? I'd have the 2 pieces of equipment.
Do you have the 2 pieces of equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
He has them.
Okay.
And they're to be returned to him in good condition. Otherwise, he can bring you back here. Do you understand? You don't want to be back here because you've already embarrassed yourself. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused.
24-year-old Nicole Johnson is suing her neighbor, 23-year-old Sally Jones, for the cost to fix her car. Nicole claims Sally's son, 5-year-old Darian, scratched her paint job with rocks.
Miss Johnson, your complaint is that Miss Jones's son, that would be this little tyke over here, vandalized your car with some sort of an implement. You want her to pay for the damage. Miss Jones says, well, she's not sure if her son did it. And if he did it, he had an accomplice of similar age. And why aren't you suing the accomplice too? That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Jones, let me ask you this question. If you believe that your son was responsible for part of the damage, you would acknowledge that and would be prepared to pay for part of the damage. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What proof do you have that Miss Jones's son, because you didn't see it, vandalized your car?
I have a witness who says she saw him do it.
Okay. When did this happen?
July 11th.
at approximately 7:30, 8 a.m.
And the witness that you had would be this little girl? Mm-hmm. And she's 5?
Yes.
Whose child is she?
One of our other neighbors. Her name's Angela Twyman.
And what's her name?
Michaela.
Michaela, would you like to come up and talk to me?
Hey. Okay. You all right? Okay.
Hi, Michaela. Do you know who I am? You don't know? Do you know why you're here? And you don't know why you're here. Who did you come with today? Oh, I see this is going to be interesting. Do you know this little boy? Is he a friend of yours? Do you know Miss Jones? Is she a neighbor of yours? Can you talk? Can you tell me your full name? Let me hear.
Michaela.
And what's your last name, Michaela?
Michaela and Twyman.
Do you want to talk to me about what happened with Miss Johnson's car? You want to tell me what happened? Okay, tell me what happened.
He spit on the car.
He spit on the car? Did you see him do that? Did you see him do anything else to the car, Michaela? What else did you see him do?
He scratched it.
What did he scratch it with?
A rock.
Did you see him with the rock in his hand? Did you have a rock in your hand? Was anybody else with him when he had the rock in his hand?
No.
But you're sure you saw him scratch the car with a rock? After you saw him scratch the car, Michaela, did you go and tell anybody? Who did you tell?
His parents.
His parents? Oh, did you tell them right away? Okay. You can go and sit down now. Thank you. Michaela came and told you that about that?
No, ma'am.
She never came and told you about it?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you?
I called. I assume that from the way the marks are, they're huge, just circles, scribbles, they're all at very low positions. I assumed it was a child, and I assumed that if I asked enough children, one of them would tell on the other. So I called her parents and I said, you know, later on today when the kids are home, please ask them if they saw anyone playing around Miss Nikki's car. And in the background, I could hear her say, I did, I saw Darian. And her mom said, well, will you do me a favor? Will you go outside and on Mommy's car, will you touch the spots that you saw him touching on Miss Nikki's car? And she said, okay. She's touching the hood, the driver's side door, and the passenger door on the same side as the driver's side. And she said, is that right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly where the damage is.
Tell me your name.
Darian.
Darian, I want you to come up here and sit up here and talk to me. Trouble. A handful.
Yes, thank you. I do know that.
A handful.
Okay. Tell the judge, okay?
Me and Michaela did it.
You and Michaela both did it? Well, tell me how that happened, Darian.
Me and Michaela had rocks.
Well, how many rocks did you have in your hand?
1.
And where did you get the rock from?
Off the ground.
And what about Michaela? Did she have a rock too?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to scratch Miss Johnson's car?
I don't know.
Well, does your mom have a car?
Yeah, gray.
Gray. She has a gray car. Darian, if you saw children scratching your mother's car, would you be angry with them? Because that's not the right thing to do, right? And your mommy would be very upset that somebody scratched her car, wouldn't she? She would be sad. Are you ever going to do that again? Because you know you can get into trouble for doing that to other people's property, right? How many marks did you make on the car? And how many marks did Michaela make on the car? So you made more marks than Michaela. Did Michaela make bigger marks than you or littler marks than you? She made smaller marks than you. Show me with your hands how big were the marks that you made on the car. Big ones. And she made little ones. Is that right? She made little ones, and show me your size. The ones you made were bigger ones. Now, when your mom asked you about Miss Johnson's car, did you tell her the truth right away?
My dad.
You told your dad the truth right away? And what did you tell him?
I scratched it.
And when did you tell your mom and your dad that Michaela was there too?
I didn't tell him. I only told my dad.
When did you tell your dad that Michaela was there too? Did you tell him right away, or did you tell him later?
Right away.
Okay. Go and step down. I have a feeling he did a little more damage than Michaela did, but my sense is that Michaela was there, made a few little marks. Miss Johnson, I know that you don't like to believe it, but cute little Michaela scratched your car. Didn't do as much damage as this little guy did. And in his own 5-year-old way, he really told me the truth about that, because I don't know how many scratches were on the car, but clearly he said he did more than she did. And when I asked him, you saw, how big were her scratches? He said, well, they were really teeny. Mine were bigger. Well, one gets the sense that at least he's telling the truth, that there was some co-participation.
And she said that she helped him wipe them off with the spit so that he wouldn't get into trouble. That's what she told her mom.
Oh, okay.
She said, I helped, he spit all over the car and I helped him rub them off, but they weren't coming off.
Okay. So you get it, that Michaela's folks have to be responsible for some of the damage to the car.
I also have rental car receipts because they said it's going to take 4 to 5 days. So I have $182.04 because they won't do it on the weekend, not all of it, and I work about 45 minutes from home.
Okay.
So I have a rental car receipt for $182.04.
$422, that's half. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $422. Thank you.
Parties are
Thank you.
excused.
Smart but a handful, Miss Jones. Thank you.
22-year-old Leonardo Saucedo is suing his former roommate, 23-year-old Jessica Trejo, for breaking their apartment lease.
Mr. Saucedo, this young lady was a friend of yours and you decided to rent an apartment together.
That's correct.
You signed a 1-year lease. It was a 2-bedroom apartment from what I gather. You moved in. Shortly after you moved in, she moved out.
Yes.
And you were able to terminate the lease early, but it cost you several $1,000s. And you believe that because she moved out without any good cause, that she should be responsible for the early termination fees on the lease.
That's correct.
I've tried and tried to find the defense that is in Ms. Trejo's answer, and the best I can figure out is you were playing your radio too loud.
No, that's not true.
I don't know what her defense is. When did you move into this apartment, Mr. Saucedo?
We moved there September 2006.
And how long had you known the defendant before you decided to be roommates?
About a year. I had met her on MySpace.
You didn't have a romantic relationship?
We did prior to moving in. We were talking, kind of dating, but we ended that before we moved in because we didn't want to have conflict with each other.
And did that work out okay?
There was one occasion something happened, but that's it.
Everything else was
perfect.
She stayed in her room and you stayed in yours.
Exactly, yes, no problems. We both respect each other's space.
When did you move out?
February 2007.
Why?
Because I felt like I was not in a good environment, because he would have his music all loud. I would work 13 hours a day, 6 days out of the week, and my job is very serious.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm a laboratory technician.
Yeah?
And pretty much I have to get my sleep in order for me to do my bone marrow slides and whatever I do. And he would bring girls over to the house, always playing the music loud, and I could never get my sleep. I would come home 11 o'clock at night from work, and I would shut my door, try to go to sleep. I couldn't. There was always things slamming doors, slamming cabinets, and there was no way of me getting my sleep.
That's not true.
I would be going to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning.
So that's your defense. Your defense was that he played the music too loud.
Not only that, Your Honor.
Well, then get to something more meaningful, madam.
Okay, another thing was we did have a sexual relation while we were living together. We did. And another thing was he owed a lot of money to me before we moved in. And like the money that he owed me, and like the music and all that he was always playing. And not only that, but the foul language and the sex he was having with other girls. And I would always bring my friends over, which it was a 14-year-old daughter for my best friends.
Yeah.
And they would come over and come and visit me. And when they would come and visit me, it was at the wrong time, to the point that he would be having sex and the 14-year-old girl would be listening to that.
It's not true.
I'm still waiting for a legal reason for you moving out and breaking your lease.
Because it was not an environment for me to be in.
Should have thought of that before you signed the lease.
He was not like that the way we were.
He was always like, you mean he's a psychopath? He's got bipolar disorder? He's 2 different personalities? You know him for a year. This is who he is.
Yes, but before that, when we moved in together, he was not the way he was before. It was a whole totally different person.
So what you do is, since you work 12 hours a day, you say, listen, I'm going to stay in this apartment. You leave. I'll take over the lease. But I'm not happy with living with you here. You just don't leave.
I did tell him that. I gave him my 30-day notice.
You can't give him 30-day notice. You have a 1-year lease. How could you give him 30-day notice? Tell him I'm leaving, goodbye, I'm giving you 30 days?
I did give him a 30-day notice. Plus, not only that, but I just felt like I couldn't be in the apartment anymore. It was affecting with my job.
So I just told you what you should have done. You should have said to him, I think you have to move out because we're not getting along.
I told him that we needed to move out.
Not we.
And
not we, he.
Okay, well, I did not want it to be there no longer either.
Why? No, now
I was going to pay whatever was the rest on the lease.
Yes.
Okay? Now, he decided not to leave from there because he didn't want to live with his grandparents anymore.
You're double talking, Ms. Trejo. You're double talking.
He did not want to live with his grandparents.
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about you. Why didn't you say, stand your music, I can't stand your social life, please, you move out and I'll stay in the apartment, or you stay in the apartment, I'll move out. If you can't get another roommate, I'll pay the rent or the early termination fees.
We did have a communication in that. And sometimes I wouldn't be able to have a communication with him because of my overtime and the hours I was working. So I would leave a note to him, letting him know the problems that it would affect me in my environment, that me being there. So.
You can't act like a baby. You can't pack up your suitcase and leave when you have a lease, when you have an obligation. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Where did you go when you left him?
I had went back.
I don't want you to think about where you went. I want you to just tell me where you went.
To my mom's house.
That's an answer. And are you still there?
Yes, I am.
And you don't pay rent?
Yes, I do.
How much rent do you pay?
$500.
I don't believe you. How's that? I don't believe you. I think that you're a slick talker. But I think you did the wrong thing with regard to this young man. You have no valid reason that you moved out of that apartment. None. The radio was too loud? Tell him to turn the radio down. You wrote him letters? Let me see the letters. I assume you kept a copy.
No, I didn't.
Well, of course not, because it's a lot of baloney. You don't like him having women in the apartment? That was your arrangement. Your arrangement was you were moving in as friends. That's why you moved into a 2-bedroom apartment instead of a 1-bedroom apartment. How much did you pay in fees to terminate the lease?
In total, I paid $4,145, but I'm only suing for $3,080 because I'm paying for my half of the rent for the 2 months.
Let me see your figures, please. How many months did you stay there, Mr. Saucedo, after she moved out?
The first week of March was my last week there.
And where did you go?
I went back to my grandma's house.
How old are you?
22.
And you?
23.
That's where you belong. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,080. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ray Wood claims ex-girlfriend Mindy Golden had him falsely arrested for burglary. Mindy is countersuing, claiming Ray made false allegations to Child Protective Services.
Mr. Wood, this lady used to be your girlfriend, and I would assume that the person standing on your side is your brother. Is that right?
Yes.
It is your claim, Mr. Wood, that the defendants falsely reported that you were burglarizing their home, causing you to be arrested. You spent money on attorneys, and you want to be compensated for their false reporting of this burglary. Miss Golden and her brother say that you actually were in their home without permission, which is a burglary. They say that you retaliated by calling Child Protective Services and claiming that the two of them were using drugs in front of their children, in front of your children.
Right.
And in addition, Ms. Golden is counterclaiming because she said because of your action, she was fired from her job. She wants to be compensated for her lost wages. When did this unholy alliance begin?
June 2004.
Did you live together?
No.
Ever?
No.
Did you ever stay over?
Occasionally.
How many times a week, Mr. Wood?
Once, maybe twice.
Did you have a key?
At one time, yes.
Would you occasionally go over to the house and answer my question? I don't want you to think of where I'm going, Mr. Wood. All I want you to do is try to tell me the truth.
Okay.
The truth will set you free.
Okay.
Did you ever go over to the house and wait for her to come home?
Yes.
Went into the house by yourself?
Yes.
That happened frequently?
No.
In the course of the year and a half that you were together, did it happen 10 times?
No.
Happened 5 times?
Maybe, yes.
When you went over there and neither she nor her, prior to February of 2006, did anybody report that you were in the house without permission?
No.
Did you ever take anything that you weren't supposed to?
No, I did not.
Tell me what happened on February 17th, 2006.
It was about 7 o'clock in the evening, 7:15. I was in Binghamton, and I got a call from Mindy stating that her brother had caught me in the trailer. And she said that I didn't have any business being in there because we had broken up the previous week again.
It was longer.
Shh, shh. And what did you say to her?
What's going on? Why are you doing this? I'm in Binghamton. I haven't been in Windsor for over an hour. Why are you doing this? And she said, you were there. I'm going to see you in jail. I'm calling the troopers, and slammed the phone down.
Okay. Miss Golden, were you at home?
No, I was at work.
Your brother was at home?
Yes.
Your first name, sir?
Kevin.
Do you remember what day of the week the 17th of February was?
Remember the day? No, I don't.
Do you?
Yes, Tuesday.
Do you remember what time she called you?
7:45.
In the evening?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Golden. I want you to tell me what happened on the 17th of February.
I went out to eat.
No, look at me.
Oh, I went out to eat with my girlfriend. Came home from dinner. Proceeded to enter in the door. And when I bumped into Ray, coming out as I was coming in.
He was coming out?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
Just nothing. We were just both like, yeah. And I heard a hissing noise. And that was the propane, so I went to investigate that, and I turned around. By the time I fixed that, he was gone.
What was wrong with the propane?
It was unhooked from the tank. Hooks up to the trailer for heat and cooking.
And it's outside?
Outside, correct.
Now, when you went inside, what did you see?
Nothing really. It was dark.
No, inside the trailer, sir.
Oh, what did I see? Nothing really. He was coming out as I was going in.
Anything missing?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Anything vandalized?
No.
The only thing unusual that you found was outside the trailer?
Correct.
Mr. Golden, I'm unclear, sir. Was Mr. Wood inside the house or outside the house?
Inside the house, ma'am.
Inside?
Yes.
Is there a key that you used to get inside the house?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you think Mr. Wood got inside the house?
Had his own key.
Did you have a key to the house?
No, I gave it back to Mindy.
I had asked for it back, and it took him a week to give it back to me.
So you got it back?
Yes, I did.
When, Mr. Wood, did you call Child Protective Services on the Goldens?
I didn't hear from the troopers for a week to 10 days on that charge. And so as soon as I left the troopers.
So you filed the charges with Child Protective Services after these charges were filed against you?
Yes.
No.
No?
No. I have
Really?
copies of the
That
reports.
you see,
The day that he was arrested, February 17th, against me and my brother.
after he was arrested. You have to stop trying to figure out where I'm going, madam. You're not that clever. When did you stop being involved in a relationship, Mr. Wood?
February 7th.
Had you been back to the house since February 7th?
No.
So all the information that you had on February 17th when you filed the charges with Child Protective Services, you had on the 7th when you left. Is
Yes.
that right? And I assume you filed the report with Child Protective Services, Mr. Wood, because you were concerned about the child.
Yes.
And you filed those charges indicating that there was drug use in the home.
Yes, I did.
Now, what were you doing between February 7th when you broke up and February 17th?
As far as what? I don't
I
understand.
want to know if you were incapacitated.
Oh, no.
I want to know if you were hospitalized.
No.
So you want to tell me, sir, why you waited from February 17th to report to Child Protective Services something that you must have felt very strongly about this drug use in front of a child, right?
Right.
So explain to me why you waited 10 days.
I thought maybe it would change.
So what told you that it wasn't going to change when they filed these burglary charges against you? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
You mean it was just a coincidence?
I thought maybe.
You mean it was just a coincidence?
Yes.
That the charges were filed on the same day with Child Protective Services as the charges for burglary were filed against you?
Yes.
That's a coincidence, sir, that I find very hard to swallow. Because if someone is legitimately concerned about the welfare of a child, how old is your child?
He's 3 now. He was 2.
About a 3-year-old child that has no voice, then I assume that this drug use has been going on for a long time, right?
Yes.
That you would have reported it immediately, right?
Right.
You chose to wait serendipitously on the same day as you were arrested for burglary to report it to Child Protective Services.
Yes.
That would be unfortunate. Now, let us move on to your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
He had filed another report against myself and my daughter's father. So 2 separate reports to Child
What were you
Protective.
doing with your daughter's father?
Nothing. He doesn't even know my daughter's father.
Well, what did he allege you were doing?
The same thing.
Did you ever smoke marijuana in front of your child?
No, ma'am.
Did your brother?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, you would know that, right?
I would hope so.
Let's get to the counterclaim.
Honestly, I just want him to leave me alone. And I wouldn't have filed the counterclaim if he hadn't done this.
Okay, so you're going to withdraw the counterclaim because you want me to deal with his claim of false arrest?
Please.
Mr. Wood, I believe you were there. How about that?
I wasn't there.
I believe you were. I don't see any other reason, sir. I understand that the grand jury refused to indict you probably because you really didn't do anything while you were there except maybe pull apart the propane so that they would run out of gas. That's what you did. I don't necessarily believe that he saw you inside the house, but I believe that he saw you there. I don't know what you were angry at, but I believe that he saw you there. And I believe that you retaliated, and you retaliated by filing charges against both of them for drug use. I believe that that's an inappropriate way to conduct yourself if you were legitimately concerned about the welfare of an infant. And what you do is you report those concerns immediately to protective services, and you don't wait until you have an axe to grind to do it. That's not what Child Protective Services is there for. So I believe that you were there on the 17th of February. I don't think that you were there to burglarize the house. And by the way, Miss Golden, you want him to leave you alone? He better leave you alone. Did you file for a protective order?
Yes, I did. And
Do you have one?
I did. It ran out, but he was leaving me alone, so I didn't renew it.
How long did you have it for?
6 months.
So now he's leaving you alone?
Yes.
Perfect. Let it remain that way. The lawsuit's dismissed, sir. You were there on the 17th of February. I believe you were there. That's all.
21-year-old Laura Termini is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Justin Jordan, for punching out the windshield of her car and impound fees.
This was your boyfriend. Mm-hmm. You had an argument while you were driving in a car. You were the driver?
Yes, ma'am.
He was the passenger. During the course of the argument, he got very angry and he hit the windshield, or he hit a mirror in your car which broke the windshield. You want him to pay for that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that after this incident, you were no longer boyfriend and girlfriend, but about a month later, you had to go to the airport. So you were stupid enough to ask him if he would drive you to the airport and he could keep your car and use it while you were away. So he took you to the airport. According to him, he parked it where he shouldn't have parked it. It got towed, and it cost you a whole bunch of money to get the car out of the towing facility. So far, is that about right, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, that's correct.
No, look at me. Look at me,
Yes.
smarty pants. Yes, Judge, that's correct.
Yes, it is. Correct.
All right. Mr. Jordan's defense is he broke the windshield in the car instead of breaking your face, because that's how mad he was. So he hit something that couldn't really injure. Am I reading it right?
Yes, you are.
And the second part about taking the car and having it towed, he says, well, you should have come home from your vacation early and taken care of your problem, right?
Right, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jordan, did you eat spinach as a child? Regularly?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to tell me when this incident was, Mr. Jordan, in the car.
Late August.
August of 2006.
August of 2006.
All right. Where were you coming from, sir?
We were coming from our apartment, and we were taking the cat to the vet, which was neglected, and it was dying, and I was very off, and that's the bottom line.
Whose cat was it?
It was hers.
What kind of cat was it?
It was a Savannah F2.
A Savannah F2.
Yeah.
What is that?
It just has some wild cat in it, so it's like half wild, half regular cat.
How long had you had the cat?
About 6 months.
And when you say she neglected the cat, Mr. Jordan, what do you mean she neglected the cat?
It means it didn't have its proper shots, it wasn't taken care of correctly, it was not fed the right food.
Okay. So you were angry with her that you were taking the cat to the vet?
Yeah, it was dying.
And what did you do?
Well, she was degrading me, putting me down, and
Well, what did she say to you, Mr. Jordan?
a bunch of stuff like worthless and just stuff like that, you know?
She called you worthless?
Yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
What else did she call you?
A bunch of profound words that I can't say on TV, but,
You mean
know.
profanity, not
Profanity, yes.
So what did you do?
So I punched the windshield.
And who's responsible for that?
She is.
Because she made you angry.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you took her to the airport
Yes.
in her car, and then you took her car to work.
Yes.
Did you park it in a place where you shouldn't have parked the car?
No.
You mean the police made a mistake?
Yes.
Towing your car?
Yes.
Was it parked near a fire hydrant?
No, they say it was blocking a driveway.
Blocking a driveway?
Yeah.
But there was no driveway.
No, there was a driveway, but it was not blocking a driveway.
You mean somebody could have squeezed through?
Definitely. No, it wasn't blocking a driveway.
You mean they just selected your car at random because you ate your spinach as a child?
No.
So what happened when you came out and found the car no longer there, Mr.
So it
Jordan?
was gone, and I went to Anaheim Police Department, and I couldn't get it out.
Well, when you went to the Anaheim Police Department, what were you told?
She had to come get it out.
And you said that she was on vacation.
Yes, I did.
Did you contact her?
Yes, I did.
Did you ask her to send you a letter of authorization so that you could get the car?
Yes, I did.
And did she send it?
No, she didn't.
Why not?
Because he said that he didn't have the money to pay it. So if I send it, he wouldn't pay it anyway.
Is that what you told her?
No.
What did you tell her?
I told her to come get it out.
Who was supposed to pay for it?
I told her I was going to pay for it.
Oh, good. So?
If she came home and got it out, but she remained in New York for another 5 days. That's
Well-
why that bill is so expensive.
Oh, the bill is so high, sir, because you parked in a driveway.
No, it was $160, and whatever she paid, that's her fault.
Tell me how much the impound fees were.
Together with the ticket, $435.
And the windshield?
It is $1,097.
Did you have the car fixed?
No, I haven't. I don't have the money to have it fixed.
Okay. Anything else you want to say to me, Mr. Jordan, before I let you go on your way, sir?
No.
Wasn't this a pleasant experience? Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,530.
Bus driver Judy Greenlee is suing fellow bus driver David Smith for backing into her car with his bus. David claims he didn't do it.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 169 on the calendar in the matter of Greenlee versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Ms. Greenlee, there was a time last year when you and Mr. Smith were employed by the same bus company, a school bus company. And it is your claim that while you were out doing your route, Mr. Smith backed a school bus into your parked car and then took off, damaging your car. You want him to pay for the damage to the car and other related expenses. Mr. Smith says he never touched your car, and he is counterclaiming because he says because you filed these charges against him, he was humiliated at work, he was arrested on the job, and he was ultimately acquitted of those charges. Did you have a trial?
No, the police officer dropped everything.
Okay, and told you to proceed civilly, I assume. So he's got a counterclaim. When did this incident happen with your car?
January 12th of 2004.
And at what time did you leave that day on your bus?
6:30 a.m.
When did you return to the yard?
Approximately 8:15 a.m.
When did you look at your car?
As soon as I got back to the garage.
And what did you discover?
I discovered a dent, and there was rub marks from where my paint had been rubbed off. A part of
Do you have photographs of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see the photographs.
And I also have a videotape of the bus actually hitting the vehicle. There's the videotape.
So your car is red?
No, my car is orange.
Orange?
Yes.
Okay. Orange.
Orange.
I assume before you looked at the video, you conducted your own investigation. According to what I read here, a little bit of an investigation on your own. You went around looking at all the buses?
Yes.
And didn't find any of them with any damage?
No.
So what did you do next?
We went on our afternoon routes. David's the only bus that did not come back to the garage that morning. So when we both drove at the same elementary school. He was off of his bus, and I went and I seen the orange paint and the rub mark on the back of the bus. My husband was actually up at the transportation director's office speaking with him, told him the damages I found.
Okay. Don't tell me what your husband said. That's hearsay. But you saw orange paint on Mr. Smith's bus?
Yes.
Did you speak to him?
No.
All right, Mr. Smith. Now, tell me your version of what happened that morning.
I got in my bus around 6:40. I backed my bus up. I had another bus that was to the left of me that I couldn't clear, so I had to get off my bus because my two-way radio did not work on my bus. Got off my bus, went and asked the backup so I could go around. I did my route.
So it's your claim that at no time did you hit Miss Greenlee's car?
No, ma'am.
Now, you were subsequently arrested?
The police come to my work to arrest me for hit and run, but my boss asked them before they arrested me to go and watch the videotape at the transportation office. So my two bosses, the transportation director, the police officer, and myself, all went down.